It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. Owen Thomas joins us from the San Francisco Business Times. My favorite internet lawyer, Denise Howell, is here. Comic expert Glenn Fleishman's here as well. We're going to talk about Google's big lie. Turns out that Gemini video was entirely faked. How the Russians used Cameo to create a propaganda video. And Elon Musk's Grok. Is it really just OpenAI's ChatGPT? All that and more coming up next on Twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 957, recorded Sunday, December 10th, 2023. Put it in a red envelope. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Miro, the online workspace for innovation, where your team can dream, design, and build the future together from any location. Tap into a way to map processes, visualize content, run retrospectives, and keep all your documents and data in one place. Get your first 3 boards for free at Miro.com/podcast. And by our friends at IT Pro TV, now ACI Learning. ACI's new solution, Insights, assists in identifying and fixing skill gaps in your IT teams. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit. Twit listeners can receive discounts of up to 65% off an IT Pro Enterprise Solution plan. Discount depends on the size of your team. Go fill out the form and find out how much you can save at go.acilearning.com/twit. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news. Hello, everybody. Leo Laporte back. Have I been gone for 3 freaking weeks? That's crazy. Don't let me do that again. I am back, and I am so thrilled to have some of my best friends on the show. Owen Thomas is here from his new offices as managing editor of the San Francisco Business Times, right? businessjournals.com/San Francisco. Hi, Owen.
Hey, Leo, that is correct. I'm in San Francisco covering business. I'm downtown, and you would be shocked actually how many people are here on a Sunday. I'm like, what are all you people doing? But here we all are.
It's a trick of the photography, but it looks like it's snowing. I don't think it's snowing in San Francisco. If it is, that's just news.
I think it's just the gently blowing leaves behind me.
It's a very kind of wintry scene. I like it. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy holidays.
Yeah. Denise Howell is also here. Always welcome. Longtime host on Twit with This Week in Law. She's now at hearsayculture.com.
Hi, good to be here.
Yeah, nice to see you. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays.
This is not our holiday show. We are going to have another show, and then we will be back Christmas Eve with a special holiday show we call the Old Farts Twit. You have to be over 60 to be on it, so don't feel bad, any of you, for not being there. But Steve Gibson and Doc Searles, Rod Pyle from our space show, and who am I forgetting? Paul wasn't there this time. Oh, well, anyway.
Steve?
Yeah, I got Steve, Rod, Doc. Anyway, he's going to kill me, whoever it is. But it's going to be an amazing show, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and that'll be our Christmas Eve show. And then Jeff Jarvis. I'm in trouble now.
Jeff Jarvis.
I'm in deep trouble with Jeff. And then the following week will be our New Year's Eve show, and that voice, that beautiful singing voice, is that of Glenn Fleishman.
Ahoy, ahoy!
Is your new book out? How comics were made?
No, I'm in the throes of research. It's coming out next year. I'm going to Kickstarter in February, and then it'll be out late in the year. But I'm just back from a fun research trip to the Billy Ireland Cartoon Library and Museum at the Ohio State University.
Are you making your way around all of it? Because I know you're coming to Santa Rosa next month for the Charles Schultz Museum.
Yeah, they have a lot of great materials there. I'm going to go to Columbia, where they have Columbia University has a great cartoons collection. Been talking to the folks at the Beinecke Library at Yale, which has all the Gary Trudeau stuff, emailing folks at Princeton and Harvard who have. It's weird the Ivies. I don't know why they have it, but the Ivies all seem to have a lot of comics graduates or collected things. And OSU, the Billy Ireland, is the greatest collection of comics archives in the United States, certainly probably the world, because once they got underway decades ago and then became they were a special collection, then became their own entity, cartoonists are like, well, where should I donate my life's work? And the Billy Ireland would say, us. And so they have, 120, like the entire studio's worth of material are all like all the archives and everything are there available for researchers like me.
And when you say comics, you're not talking about these are mostly newspaper comics, right?
Yeah, I'm focusing on newspaper comics because of the history, because they predate comic books, and because it's this kind of funny thing that newspaper cartoonists who did newspaper comics had so little control over the process. So part of the story I'm telling is how they drew, how materials were transformed into print through all these wacky methods even today, and then what the output looks like. I looked at a bunch of different Peanuts newspaper reproductions of the same strip, and none of them look the same. Some were printed by a potato, obviously, because they're so terrible, and others are like, oh, that's really fine printing there. And so the book is going to try to tell that story of this weird art form we all love, that is, the artists have this kind of separation from the way it actually looks, the way it appears, the size. And I've interviewed almost 30 people for it so far. I probably have another 20 to go. And anyway, it's a hoot. It's a hoot. Hope people like it.
Before we get into the news, and there is quite a bit of news, there's also going to be a spanking. None of you guys. Don't worry. None of you guys. But Google's going to get a little bit of a spanking today, from me anyway. But before we do that, I do want to address something that is a sad state of affairs here at Twit. And some of you may know, some of you may not know. We have been going through financial difficulties all year. It's been very hard, as all podcasting has been going through it. Podcasting, radio got about 100 years. Podcasting got a decade. That's about it. And now there's so many podcasts, but more to the point, advertisers who loved podcasting briefly have decided that YouTube influencers are much better or something. I don't know what's happening, but audiences have dwindled as the number of podcasts have grown. Our audience has held pretty well. We're not worried about that, but also advertising dollars, and they've significantly dwindled. YouTube advertising sales grew almost $1 trillion last year, and that's because that money came from TV, from radio, from magazines, from podcasting, from every other medium, because advertisers said, hey, it would be really nice if we knew more about the people seeing these ads. And podcasting can't do that. It's not the way podcasting works. Spotify can do it because you have to listen in the Spotify app. So a lot of the ad dollars have dwindled. Lisa and I sat down last week and did the math for next year based on ad sales to date. And our projection is to lose about $1.1 million next year. Now, I am not Jeff Bezos. I am not Elon Musk. We can't lose $1 million because we don't have it. So we had to make cuts. This week we laid off 3 of our people we love dearly. It hurt terribly to do so. Jason Howell, who produced this show, of course, was the host of All About Android, Tech News Weekly, and had been with Twit for 13 years since he came over from CNET and Buzz Out Loud with Tom Merritt. And we had to lay him off. We laid off Ant Pruitt, who Glenn from This Week in Google, who is a gentle giant and a sweetheart and a beautiful man after 5 years here. And we laid off an editor because, canceling shows doesn't save money unless we also lay off the staff that produces those shows. So Victor Bognot, whose name you may not know, he produced our promos and edited a number of shows. You probably heard his name. He also produced some of our shows behind the scenes. All 3 understood. It hurt me and it hurt them. And I know, especially this time of year, but that's when it happens because, when the calendar year ends, that's when we start to see what's going to happen next year. And we wanted to make sure we could lay them off with severance and take care of them. If we had waited till next year, it might not have been the case. So All of them are going to do fine. We're going to help them all as best we can, and they have use of our offices as long as they need it and so forth. So we've left on good terms, but I know this will be a bit of a shock for some of you listening, and it's certainly a loss for us. There will be some show cancellations as well. That news will come out next week. And all I can say is, we're doing the best we can to sell ads. That does not make up the 1.1 million loss by any means. In order to survive, we're also going to need to increase the club. But we'd like to double the size of the club before this year, so that we can be financially solvent. We'll need to do that to be financially solvent. So if you're not yet a club member and you don't like what's happening, but you want to support us going forward, we'd like to keep doing these shows. I could retire. I don't have to do them, but I want to keep doing them. It will take some cooperation from you. If you're not a member of Club Twit, please twit.tv/clubtwit. $7 a month. But it really does make a difference, and we give you some nice benefits. It's been a tough year for podcasting. Stitcher went out of business. Gimlet went out of business. WNYC pulled back from podcasting. It's too bad, because I think this is a great medium. And I know people who listen to podcasts love it. So it's a little bit of a puzzlement to me. I was working in radio for my whole life, left the radio show last year because it was going through the same thing. Radio's not exactly doing well. But I'd hoped that podcasting would. Anyway, enough of that. But I did want to give you that news. Benito Gonzalez, who is a wonderful guy, has been TDing the show for some time. He's going to take over as producer. He was in touch with all three of you, and we'll be in touch with our casts going forwards. Tough times in the world of podcasting, but I'd like to keep going. I really would. And I think we can, because we have a very dedicated audience. Thank you for your support.
One of the strengths of podcasting is that it's so open to so many people, and it's also under the control. It's one of the last kinds of things you can do as a consumer of things, that it's under your control. You can fast forward, you can rewind, you can do all kinds of stuff. And I think what makes the medium powerful also makes it hard to sell ads against it, because it's so hard to measure. It's so hard to know people are locked into behavior. So
yeah, and if you listen to Spotify, this is why Joe Rogan can charge $1 million an ad and gets it, because they know exactly who you are. They know when you heard the ad, how many times you heard it, when you didn't hear it, when you rewound it, all of that stuff. And not only can we not do it, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. So unless, of course, they offer me $400 million, in which case I would sell my soul, and I will. No, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. So
some developer out there has to be working on an AI tool that will rapidly summarize a podcast once it's recorded, and
we're using that.
Everything.
Yeah,
you are.
So we are. I'm very. AI. So actually, this can launch into our first topic. I have been very mixed feelings about AI. At first, for a long time, in fact, I've thought it was a parlor trick. It's Eliza on steroids, but not. It's not. It's clearly not thinking. It hallucinates.
Wow, that is a throwback reference. I remember hand coding Eliza in elementary school.
Yeah, in basic, right? So tell me if I'm wrong, but as I remember, Eliza, you would actually give it a set of possible answers, and the trick was it would take a word from the conversation and reuse it, and you'd have some boilerplate around it. It was very primitive.
And yet very effective. And,
it somehow worked. Well, we've gotten a lot better, haven't we? So I was a little skeptical because of that. I think my tune has changed. And to your point, Denise, there are now tools for podcasters, not just transcription. I look forward to, I hope, in the next year or so, to having Spanish language versions of these shows, because they can do that now. Spotify offers it to someone where it is my voice and my mouth moves appropriately, so it's indistinguishable from me doing the show in Spanish. I would like to do that for a variety of languages, which would really widen our base of audience and make it available to people who are interested. There are summarization tools. We already use those for show notes. There are, these are a lot of good uses for AI, more and more.
I feel like you could maximize the marketing by, honing in on keywords.
We
and
are using
topics and things.
We are using it. There's a tool that cuts our shows, it makes them vertical, and cuts out highlights that we can then use on TikTok. So yes, there's all sorts of stuff coming. And it's actually surprisingly good. I was very negative about it at first because I don't want to put out kind of generic content, you know. And a lot of the writing you see from LLMs is very generic. It's kind of not bad, but not brilliant, just kind of average. But this stuff is actually surprisingly good. So it is not, however, as good as Google's Gemini, at least as good as the Google Gemini demo. How many of you saw that demo this week? This thing was mind-boggling. Did you see it? We've been testing the capabilities of Gemini, our new multimodal AI. Now wait a minute, stop right here. Capturing footage to test it on a wide range of challenges, showed it a series of images, asking it to reason about what it sees. They do mention below here, the video highlights some of our favorite interactions. Whoops, I clicked the wrong link there. But
here we go.
For the purposes of the demo, latency has been reduced and outputs have been shortened.
So some people have written about how much latency was reduced. But
Bloomberg Opinion contacted them, and Google basically admitted this is bogus. So what you're seeing is, for instance, a video now he's doing the cup game.
I accept the challenge.
And, you know.
The cup to the left.
Brilliant, right? And that's something you'd expect an AI to do well. But would you expect it to know?
I know what you're doing. You're playing rock, paper, scissors.
What do you see now?
So I got to point out, now Google admitted, okay, this is not how it worked. First of all, this voice was generated later from text prompts that they wrote out. The rock, paper, scissors, there was never a video of him doing rock, paper, scissors. They had stills, which they showed Gemini, and then said, because if you show me a hand like, you know, open or doing scissors, that could be a variety of things. And then said, what game is this? They cut that part out. There was never a video. So this is basically a demo that's fake, 100% fake, showing kind of in a I think a misleading way the capabilities of Gemini.
Yeah, it reminded me of the AT&T You Will commercials from
this is bogus.
So the 90s or something, when AT&T had those, and it was all just, you know, I don't know if much of that has come to pass. Someone's probably compared it. But but I thought the actual responses were accurate, even though what they're showing is almost a dramatization.
It's a dramatization.
What occurred.
These were the responses plus other stuff. They took out also information that was given to the AI before those responses happened. No, this is as fake as you can get.
Okay.
And
I thought it was interesting interacting with an AI visually like this.
Yeah, and they didn't.
Most of the time you're typing prompts.
Right. Well, they didn't. They did prompts. And they had stills that they would include with the prompt because it is a multimodal AI. That is, it can read pictures. This is a lie. And the thing is, I mean, maybe I'm angry because on Wednesday I played this on This Week in Google and I said, artificial general intelligence is here, everybody. Because this, as far as I was concerned, was indistinguishable from a human intelligence, better than some. You know, maybe even mine. So,
I mean, it seems like you should be able to pull this off with some sort of overhead camera, like it looks like they're doing.
Well, that's what they want you to think. That's not how they did it.
Yeah.
That would be, you know, I think, okay, to be fair to Google, maybe these capabilities are near. Maybe they're in a year or less, we'll be able to see this. You can go try Gemini and give it this stuff. In fact, people have tested it, and they say Gemini is a little bit smarter than ChatGPT-4. This much. I think it's irresponsible of Google to do a video like this, to be honest.
Yeah, but they have a history of this, right? This is the what was the assistant thing? Was that Duplex, where they showed them calling up like a hair salon and a restaurant, and they never really rolled that product out. But they keep testing. I was in Boston a few months ago visiting my college-age child and was trying to figure out, there's a restaurant, didn't take reservations, and go to Google, and it says, we called at 9 a.m. to see how busy it was. And I was like, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, wait, I take screen captures, look at the footnotes, and I think they're using an AI to call and say, hey, are you busy right now? And I tried to get Google's comment on it. They did not reply to me about what they're doing. And if you dig down, you can find some notes about it.
So remember at a Google I.O., say 5 years ago, they showed simultaneously translation with the Google Buds, which never happened.
It's a great demo, though.
They're good at demos. I think they harm the brand incredibly by doing this.
But yeah, companies, and contrast to Apple, as we think Apple's doing nothing with AI because they reveal very little. A friend of mine in New Zealand was just asking in a Slack I was in, she said, I was just texting this to my girlfriend and there was a photo in it, and she received a description of the photo, which I did not send, and it was from within messages. And all of us who are Mac people were like, I don't think it does that yet. So maybe Apple enabled, there's not even there are some accessibility settings, but I think it's a capability Apple, either it's testing or something. I mean, it described accurately the contents of a photo that was just a picture. It did not have alt text or anything was extracted. So
well, we know they can do that. In fact, Be My Eyes, which is that wonderful app that blind people use, they use volunteers. So if you have Be My Eyes on your phone, it will somebody who's blind can say, hey, what does this package say? And you as a human will do this. Well, they have now gone to AI power. And so they are actually now doing exactly what you just described using AI. And I think that this is absolutely. So this is why I'm saying I think my initial take that it was a parlor trick was absolutely wrong. It is not yet artificial general intelligence. In other words, it's not a human that can just take arbitrary stuff and get it. It's amazingly good, and used in the proper context can do amazing things. I've been using ChatGPT's GPTs. You know, those are you can create your custom AI assistant. And I do every year. I missed a little bit because of the retreat, but I got started on yesterday to solve a coding challenge that's done every year. It's wonderful, called the Advent of Code. It's an advent calendar. Every day from December 1st through 25th, they give you a problem, you solve it, and then they have a leaderboard of who solves it fastest and stuff. I'm not solving it fast because I missed the whole week, and I wouldn't anyway because these people are way above me. But I've been doing it in Common Lisp for a couple of years. It's really fun for me. I have created a GPT by putting all of the books. You know, Lisp is a good choice for this because most of the stuff's in public domain now, all the books, all the classics. Put all the books, everything I had into this, and I've been using it to help me, and it is like having a guru over my shoulder, not just writing the code, but helping me understand what it does, giving me examples. In fact, I wouldn't have it write the code, although you could see it does, but as a teacher, it's incredible. And the thing is, it's not hallucinating because I said very specifically in the instructions, only give me answers generated from the materials I gave you. I gave it about a dozen books and the websites that describe the language and so forth. And it's brilliant. It's incredible.
And how, can I ask, what's the technical process of feeding it that information?
I'll show you.
Scanning the books, or
no?
How does it get all the info?
No, that's kind of the amazing thing. So let me go into the configuration because I can continue to edit this GPT and show you. So you can upload, as I have. You can upload PDFs. It understands PDFs, and again, because Lisp hasn't changed since 1987, I think. There's a lot. Paul Graham has some classic books. Peter Norvig has some classic books, all of which they've put out in PDF. So I uploaded all of those. I also pointed it to some websites. And then you can tell it, whether it has access to the web so it can update it. I didn't need DALL-E image generation for this. You can put a code interpreter. And so you get to really, teach it, in effect. I did the same thing for Emacs, which is the editor I use. using, again, a bunch of manuals, public domain stuff. That's
good because Emacs couldn't be used without the help of a computer.
You need an AI to understand Emacs. The Emacs expert is quite good, by the way.
Well, I think that I think back to my days as a webmaster in the 90s and the, kind of like repetitive work that it required in BB Edit. To the extent that we can take out busy work and kind of like copy pasting, I would love to see, instead of focusing AI on getting, like replacing humans, could AI replace copy paste? Like if you never have to copy paste again, meaning that like the data that you're working with, the files you're working with, stuff just moves from the context that you need automatically. Maybe there shouldn't be apps, I guess, is where I'm going with this. Maybe an AI should just be an interface that kind of overlays all the apps, all the file formats, all the wonky particulars.
I'll be honest,
that's the work done.
I think the sky's the limit. As long as you understand where the limit ends. So it's not going to be a human. But given in a constraint, so for instance, Denise, you could give it your law books, you could give it your law library, and just say, look, keep your answers to stuff that is in the law books. And that's where that lawyer who used ChatGPT to write his briefs went wrong, because it made up some references. But you can say to it, no, only stuff that's in these books that I gave you. And it would be you.
But that's kind of complicated because law books, quote unquote, are not publicly available.
Well, that's a good problem. You're right. I mean, the LISP stuff
but law is, case law is. Yeah. So you should be able to find public resources. And I'm sure law firms are hard at work.
And what a feature for
Westlaw. Kinds of tools.
I'm sure you spend a lot of time in your work in Westlaw and other online, resources where you can type in a case and see this. But wouldn't it be great? LexisNexis, where you could.
So there are a number of factors that go into that. You need the source material. Then you need to know how the source material has been treated over time. You need to know what other cases have cited it, whether something's been overturned or negatively discussed by another court. So, and there are resources that, you consult to do all that Lexis and Nexis and Westlaw have. And I'm sure they're hard at work at creating
if they have
AI
the sources
tools for this.
That's what an LLM is very good at, is saying, well, here's all of the things and synthesizing. And that's what it happens to be very, very good at. I mean, this LISP documentation is all over the place. It's not, it's not regurgitating the paragraph from that book. It's synthesizing a variety of sources together. I can tell because I've read all these. I mean, I know what the source material is. It's not giving me back the source material. It's giving me a synthesis of it, which is really interesting.
This is the thing that's interesting when you use it on a fixed corpus, which I've done for a bunch of things, including like interviews I've done with people, or, I'll say from this book or whatever, is that you have to be a little bit of an expert in order to interpret that the output is correct. So when folks are talking about, well, an AI will replace programming, that seems ludicrous to me, because the people who say that usually are programmers who are demonstrating something that involves the expertise they had in order for the thing to be guided through to the end. So I just built my How Comics Were Made website. I don't feel like there's a good WYSIWYG tool out there anymore because of Squarespace and others. It's kind of eaten that into the market, and all the tools that are designed for doing high-end web stuff don't really fit my needs because they're not, they don't work the way I work. They're not like there's no Photoshop anymore for web design, I don't think, for web layout. And so I'm coding by hand, but I'm using some tools that help me visualize it interactively.
Get ready.
So I've been using ChatGPT to help me code, where I'm like, but I know a lot of JavaScript, I know a lot of CSS, I know a lot of HTML. I've forgotten how to put it all together because I haven't coded by hand. So I'll say, okay, I want to have this spinny thing. I've got this on the side. I want to have a thing that spins and has text and it's at an angle and whatever. Give me the code, and it gives me the code. I'm like, and it's deriving that. I know there's ethical issues about the sourcing of that code, what the corpus is that's being used, but it gave me perfectly reasonable code that I could then understand because I've written code like that before, install it and get it to work.
Right.
I mean, that's how we all did websites in the 90s. We would look at the source code of a website, study it, and, kind of tweak it.
And it's so nice to have the short circuit where you're just like, okay, I don't want to do 500 Google searches, and Google's HTML and other stuff is now, its resources are polluted. I feel like when you're trying to find a simple answer, I'm trying to find a CSS property and I get all this nonsense. If I ask ChatGPT, I get a no nonsense structured answer that has the demo code I need into it. And the same thing, Owen, I don't know if you're doing this now, but when I'm interviewing, sometimes I do a 30, to 2 minutes, 2 hour interview for this book I'm researching. I feed the output of the audio into an AI transcription tool. It does some summarizing work, but now I've got a searchable corpus, and I'm not having it write things for me, but I feel like, and I've done a little bit of this where I could say, did we talk about in this interview, blah, and I'll get a result out that'll say like, yeah, here's the quotes in it. Then I go and I look in the transcript for that. So it helps, it's an amplification of my reporter brain as opposed to replacing a reporter.
Notebook LM came out this week. This is Google. See, this is the thing. What makes me mad about the Gemini demo is you got some good stuff, Google. You don't need to lie. This is something that's been in the works for a while. Jeff Jarvis saw it in preview. We're going to get the author of it on This Week in Google. But the idea is it's a notebook that you provide the content to, very much like I did with that ChatGPT, custom GPT. You provide the content for it, and then it creates, so it has some examples. I tried to create a Lisp advisor in it, and it's never worked. I can't actually ask a question of it, so I don't know if it broke it or something by uploading too many things. But they have in other words, it's not as good yet as ChatGPT GPTs are. But this is the idea. If you're a researcher, for instance, you're writing a book and you put all of your research notes into Notebook LM, you can then query it. You can then
my head can't fit like 100 hours of interviews
exactly
in it anymore. When I was younger, maybe. Now I can't do that. And so you rely on search, you rely on making extensive notes, having full 99% or 98% accurate transcription is great. And then this is another layer for me as a writer where it's giving me it's enhancing me. It's giving me something I otherwise didn't have, as opposed to, replacing my function.
Here's the mushroom wizard. I don't know why they did a mushroom wizard, but this is their demo. But there's all sorts of things you can ask it about mushrooms. There are website builders. You can draw a sketch of a website. I mean, I've only seen demos and they look pretty trivial but it will make the buttons real. It'll make the website. It'll do the CSS and HTML for you. Probably, a little rudimentary, but maybe a good starting point. I think we are in I think now to me, remember, maybe you guys aren't old enough, but remember if somebody asked you, hey, what was the name of that John Wayne movie where there's Apaches and there's a fort? You would go to the library if you really wanted to know and have to find a book and search through it, and there would be the listing of John Wayne movies. You say, oh yeah, Fort Apache, which you should have known. But anyway, that was a lot of work. Now, there is nothing. I really realized this when they took away my phone for a week. I'm looking at a tree and I'm thinking, I would know what this tree is if I had my phone. That's the kind of revolution we're in. We now take it for granted that every Google search is at your fingertips and that no information, you need never go to the library to get any information. It's all there. I think we're in a kind of a similar revolution with AI, and it's really much more sophisticated.
I'm really interested to see how the app stores for these services are going to develop, what the signal to noise ratio is going to be, because, your average person is not going to put together resources and make their own GPT.
Right.
They're going to go, I need a mushroom resource.
Right.
And they're going to go to some app store somewhere and find it.
You won't buy mushroom guidebooks anymore. You'll buy the mushroom app, right? I think
travel. Think about how it could be used for travel. Yeah.
So I think that we are in a revolution. I think for sure.
Yeah.
What we don't, there's lots of question marks. It's very expensive right now to train these models. Uses a lot of power. It's not environmentally friendly. That's an issue. Models get trained and then they get tuned by humans. That's a lot faster and a lot cheaper, but still requires effort. There's new techniques and so forth. I mean, not everything's a GAN or an LLM. There's new ways of doing this, neural networks, but there's also new ways. I think we're in a really exciting time. This is, to me, what the beginning of the internet felt like. And that's a complete 180-degree turn for me because I really was skeptical.
It's exciting until the most compelling of these things is a Chinese company like TikTok, right? Because then your IT department, when they're putting all your corporate data into it so that you can leverage and search and strategize and synthesize and everything else, are you also giving away all your trade secrets to the Chinese government?
Right. There are many companies that won't let their employees use ChatGPT because they're afraid of that. It's interesting. That lesson comes from something you and I and have learned from the internet. When the internet began, I was an optimist. I was like, this thing's going to democratize. It's all going to be good. We didn't really consider the negative consequences. Now we know, and there are quite a few. I mean, it's not neutral. It's good, but it's also, there's quite a few bad things. I think we've learned that lesson, and now maybe we're approaching AI remembering that there will be consequences. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a very good thing. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the EU has actually taken the European Union, not you, have reached a deal on a landmark AI bill regulating AI. This is something that the U.S. has considered. There's a Biden executive order proposing, but we haven't done. The EU has done it. We'll talk about that and a lot more in just a little bit. There's a lot of news, too, including the return of Alex Jones to X, which broke this morning. Owen Thomas is here from the San Francisco Business Times, and it's so good to see you in your new office, your new digs. I love that. Denise Howell, our favorite internet lawyer, is here. She's an expert on IP and so forth. HearsayCulture.com will be the home of her new podcast. She's been recording shows. Soon you'll be able to subscribe. Can't wait. There's her Threads and Mastodon address as well. And Glenn Fleishman, who's coming our way in next month. He's going to be live in studio on a Twig in January. Looking forward to that. Author of the someday released How Comics Were Made. And how is Shift? I still haven't gotten my Shift Happens. Is it shipping?
Oh, here's the
holy cow! Oh my God! It's huge.
The slip-cased version. It's like a monolith. It should be coming through. Bum.
Oh my God!
Bum. 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 Bum.
It's a monolith. That's so exciting.
Yeah, we had. Every Kickstarter project has an unexpected thing, and we were sailing through. We're like, wow, we really crossed all these things off. We were so prepared. Let's just break our arm, patting ourselves in the back, and then it turned out. Each volume is so heavy. They're 4 pounds on the 2 major volumes that when we did our shipping tests, it was breaking the binding, was breaking the slipcase.
No.
Because we did what everyone involved thought was the right way to ship it. People involved with 20, 40 years of shipping experience. And this is just a unique item. So we had to go back to the drawing board, ask people for patience. And now we have a newly revised shipping method that does not seem to actually, that can accomplish it. So we're going to start shipping soon. But we have almost 20,000 volumes. It's a 3-volume set sitting in a warehouse at our printers in Maine, just waiting to go out.
Well,
and very soon, the first shipments will go out.
You got 4,278 backers, nearly $1 million, $750,000 raised. The book is coming out. I can't wait to get my copy.
It'll be in people's hands soon.
Yay.
Thank you for asking.
The history of the keyboard. Marshan Wickery and this guy right here, Glenn Fleishman, who edited it. I can't wait. I'm very excited. I didn't read it. It does look somewhat heavy. So what are you going to do? Is there going to be an LTL
I'm going to
truck
send copies to
my
Owen
door?
to do for his.
Yeah.
Owen, this will be your new lift. It'll be like.
Jeez Louise.
Excellent. It's a workout. Just
it's.
Leo, there's a truck outside. They say they have a book for you. Do you have a dolly?
Call Owen up to pick it up for you.
Oh my God. I can't wait. That's exciting. Congratulations. That's real success. Our show today brought to you by Miro. Love these guys, and I love this product. When Google killed their, what do they call it? The Jamboard. Remember that whiteboard that you rolled around that was $5,000 and you would draw on it, but it would share it and all that stuff? When they killed it, they said, yeah, never mind. Just go to Miro. They actually said, just go to Miro. It's incredible. Miro is the online workspace for innovation. No, you can't roll it from room to room. You don't have to. It's on the web. And nowadays, with teams distributed all over the world in different time zones, people contributing to projects at all different times, this is such a great idea. It's one incredible visual place that brings all your innovative work together in one spot, no matter where you're located. And it can be used for so many things. We use it for show planning, but it's a dream for anybody doing product design. This is just as an example, packed with the right things to be your dream product's home base. 6 whole capability bundles. Everything in there from product development workflows to content visualization. It's got AI now, Miro AI, which means you can use it for brainstorming, generating new ideas, or you can use it to summarize, as AI does so well, all that complex information on your board in one easy way. This is really, I can see why Google threw in the towel on the Jamboard. This is like 1,000 times better. And by the way, a heck of a lot less expensive. Miro can work for any team, but product development teams really get the full experience. You get the richest features of any visual workspace, specific tools to help with strategy or process mapping, facilitation tools, great for agile or design sprints. I mean, this thing, it connects super seamlessly to the platforms you're already using. So you don't have to give up your Jira or your Confluence or your Google or your Asana or Zapier or all the tools you use. They all integrate in. And that's great because every time you switch context, you leave a little bit of your mind behind. If you can stay in the same context while you're doing the work, it makes a big difference. You can do it all in Miro. It's a massive time saver too. In fact, Miro users report saving up to 80 hours a year by streamlining conversations, cutting down on meetings. We all want to do that. Seeing all the most up-to-date information in a single spot is huge. They've added, now one of the things that's really great for this is feedback, right? Or commenting or back and forth. They've added a new feature I really like. It's called Talk Track. It's a video recording feature. So you, instead of having another, the millionth meeting of the week, you just go on there, you pre-record your thoughts, you got video. So it's just like you're in person. And you put it on the board. And then people working in other time zones or different locations can see your comments, can respond to it. That's a nice feature. They keep adding more stuff all the time. Try it for yourself. This is the deal. First 3 boards are free. I know it seems too good to be true, but they realize that once you start using it, it's a must-have and you will love it. First 3 boards free. To start working better, go to Miro.com/podcast. Miro, Miro.com/podcast. This is an amazing tool. You will love it. And why not try it? It's free. Miro.com/podcast. Denise Howell, Owen Thomas, and an empty screen. That's Owen. He's signed off briefly. Glenn Fleishman also here. So the EU has reached a deal. They worked.
Sorry, I had to.
No.
Had to feed a hungry dog.
Show us your dog. He looks so cute. Is he a rescue?
He's a rescue from Muttville Senior Rescue in San Francisco. And come here, Fitz.
You know what I like about getting a senior dog? He's relaxed. He's very hello, Fitz. Oh, what a sweetie. He's so happy to have you. Oh my God.
He's a happy little boy.
Such a good boy. You're a good boy. All right.
How old is Fitz?
He's 11.
That's also nice because I have to say the only thing about a dog is it's sad because you're gonna outlive them. But if you get a senior dog, it's not it's happening. It's fine. You're giving him a great, like me. I'm a senior dog. You give me the last few years of my life. Give me a nice life, right? That's a good thing. Maybe somebody will adopt me.
Muttville for Leo.
Is that online? Muttville?
Muttville, yeah, they're a great outfit in in San Francisco, supported like a lot of Bay Area canine resources by Dave Duffield, the PeopleSoft co-founder.
Oh, see, people say tech isn't good for San Francisco. I would say it is. I think there's some good people out there.
Fitz says tech is delicious.
Yes. Muttville.org if you want to know more or donate. Changing the world, people. Changing the way the world thinks about and treats older dogs. Again, I support this message. So the EU stayed up late Friday night and reached a deal on the world's most ambitious law, I'm reading from the Washington Post, to regulate artificial intelligence. Now, it's interesting. The New York Times had an article about a new movement, or maybe it's not that new, but a movement in AI to not regulate it. It's called effective accelerationism that wants to unshackle AI and says, don't regulate it, man. Bring it on. Let it change the world. Regulation's just going to screw it up. And then there's, of course, the extremes, the people like Elon Musk, who wrote the famous letter that said, stop. Let's just stop for 6 months because they think, they said AI is an existential threat to humankind. I don't think the EU is on either end of that scale with this. They want a global standard to classify risk, enforce transparency, and then require tech companies to comply. There's actually financial penalties for non-compliance. If you want to do business in the 27-nation bloc of 450 million consumers, it's the West's single largest bloc, you'll have to disclose data, do rigorous testing, especially for high-risk applications, things like medical equipment. Yeah, you know, probably a good idea. Test it before you implant it. Self-driving vehicles, not a bad idea. I mean, I guess Elon would say Elon, you don't learn stuff unless you put it out in the public, and that's true, but go ahead, Glenn.
Oh, it's just, I was going to say, you just hit Elon's two big things, right? Like human brain testing and self-driving cars.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, you're in the Bay Area-ish. I know you're north of the Bay, and Owen, you're in San Francisco proper. And, you know, Washington State has not yet allowed, as far as I know, any self-driving tests like the taxi tests and all that stuff with Cruise. You're thinking, well, these people have just given the best, at least reportedly, argument for these EU and similar rules by not disclosing and selectively disclosing information about known hazards they were encountering because they wanted to move fast and break people. You know, that's not a great look. And then they had to suspend operations. They lost their CEO and another person, right, senior person,
the co-founder and chief product officer. Yeah.
So they're setting this instead of using something incremental that could have been where they could have proven safety or shown, you know, hey, something terrible happened. We're going to show we can self-regulate. They're all in such a hurry that I think they prove the necessity for regulations like this.
Yeah. On the other hand, you can't So here's a perfect example with self-driving vehicles. By the way, Cruise has pulled out of San Francisco.
Right.
They were forced to by regulators, but then they decided to pull out everywhere and rethink their whole process. That's GM's self-driving taxi. But I got to point out, yes, you know, people might get run over by self-driving vehicles, but 1 million people lost their lives in traffic accidents globally last year. It was something like 57,000 or 55,000 in the U.S. What if, there were some fatalities from self-driving vehicles, but it saves 20,000 lives? Wouldn't that be a net positive?
I mean, human drivers kill a lot of people.
We're terrible drivers.
Yeah.
I think you can argue that we're worse than any self-driving vehicle, right?
But it's going to take forever for that to happen. Like, even if you were super aggressive today, we're talking about a 20-year rollout for something like that to actually have.
Well, shouldn't we be hurrying instead of slowing it down?
Why? It's going to take a long time. Why not do it right? Why not increase the risk and damage of what's going on? I mean, I'm not in the argument. Like, I think this is where you get to the FDA. When you look at people who criticize the FDA for the speed of its approval of drugs, and some people have often said they should be moving faster. And they said, look at thalidomide, look at some other medications that we have found problems with. Or you look at something like, not Celebrex, what was the anti-inflammatory, that Vioxx, that turned out they, approved this drug after lots of review. It came into the market, and because of a lack of quality by the company and adverse reaction reporting, many people were injured. So I think we have that same, there's a tension that should be there. I think regulators should be demanding more, and companies are always going to be pushing back against it. This whole last 20 years, maybe Uber is the big start of it, is we're just going to override the regulators because our unicorn companies will have enough money to deal with whatever fines come up if we're fined for this behavior, and no one's really going to stop us. I don't think that's a great attitude.
This is actually, on a global scale, the trolley problem, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
And if you're looking down the road that there could be, there's so many deaths every year from vehicles. If you could cut that number by even 1,000, even if some people get run over by a self-driving vehicle, wouldn't that be a net goal?
I feel like we get there when either all of the cars on the road or vehicles on the road are self-driving, or most of them, the vast majority. But in the meantime, when we have this mix, I feel like we're probably, and this is just a guess on my part, we're probably at a point where the accidents are worse because human drivers don't interact well with.
It's a bad mix.
It's a bad mix.
I'm with you. I think you're right.
Jay Sinope, I should say, in our Discord has a good point. We regulated every game-changing technology from railroads to cars to radio to TV. The only time we ever decided to let a new innovation run free was the internet, and I think that was proven to be a bad idea. It's a good point. On the other hand, automobiles, we didn't really regulate. Safety belts only came in 50 years into the automotive era. There's a balance between letting the dogs run free and making sure people aren't bit unnecessarily. But I think, boy, it's a tough one. I'm arguing a little bit on the devil's advocate side, I should point out.
But I also think self-driving has been way oversold, overhyped, and underdeveloped.
It's not as good as we say.
Yeah, I remember when I started at the San Francisco Chronicle as business editor, one of the big stories was the development of self-driving. And I remember all of these grand predictions in circa 2016 that no kids, no teenagers would want a driver's license within 5 years. And that's obviously hasn't come to pass.
I have to say,
my question is,
Lisa's looking forward to driving me around. I am not looking forward to sitting in the passenger seat. I would far prefer a car drive me than Lisa.
So Lisa is opposed to self-driving Leo technology.
Yes. That's an interesting choice.
There's a sociological component to this and an urban versus less urban or rural component as well. I mean, I think you're going to see, as we've seen in San Francisco, which has been sort of ground zero for testing these systems, you probably will see them more in areas where people don't drive their own cars as much, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then are people going to want, what is going to be the rate at which we're going to convince people? We can't convince people to stop driving their gas-powered cars and switch to electric. It's an even bigger hurdle to convince them to switch to just not driving.
Yeah. It would have been nicer had we put in, as Joe points out, had we put in public transportation and high-speed trains and rail and so forth, but we didn't. So
I'm looking forward to more enhancement, though, is because, I'm an old fart, which means my cars are not, like 10, 20 years old or something at any given time. And I rented a car in July in Boston and had it for a couple weeks. And it had advanced features. And these are super basic to anyone who's bought a car in the last 10, 15 years.
Aren't they? Yeah.
Well, right. It was the if you're on cruise control and the car in front of you slows down, I will slow down automatically. Right. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, it's that I definitely almost got in an accident. If that feature hadn't been enabled, I was paying attention because someone did something rapid. The car responded faster than I could. I was like, this is great. I keep saying, and my wife has a eye condition. She can't drive at night anymore. So for her, a self-driving car would be amazing. But also she has visual acuity. She just doesn't have good night vision. And I'm like, give me a heads up screen, a night vision windscreen that shows me everything that's going on in high contrast. Wouldn't everybody want that for night driving if it worked well like that? I don't need a robot to drive for me, although I understand the benefits of that, but I want better information and better things that make me a better driver. So
I'm hearing a theme here, which ties into our earlier conversation, which is that it would be great if the focus of AI, whether it's generating text or code or what have you, or driving cars for us, if it were assistive rather than replacing the human. Like, can AI make us better humans instead of AI becoming a better human?
Yeah. I mean, you see this in warehouses even where robotics has been so heavily pushed. In a lot of cases, you see that robots are one of the big breakthroughs in automation or factory robotics is having robots safe enough to work outside of a cage alongside human beings. People don't like to talk about it because it's not sexy at all. What's sexy is a robot that packages box autonomously, but a robot that does a ton of work for a human worker who is doing less repetitive tasks and more important human processing tasks. It puts demands on the worker, but it dramatically augments and it doesn't replace the worker. It gives them higher throughput. So they're even more productive and valuable.
That is a through line. Every time we talk about AI, it's not going to replace humans. It's an augmentation that is going to be very welcome. And I think that's a fair way to state it. Now,
and it's an augmentation across the spectrum of human activity, which is why I'm a big fan, or just glad, I guess, that the EU has done what it's done, that the Biden administration put out their executive order, and that we're, beginning to put signposts and guardrails in place for use of these tools, by it's sort of a good guys with guns versus bad guys with guns problem. You don't just not regulate guns, right? You still do as much as you can. And I think that's what they're going about here, knowing full well that bad actors are going to get their hands on these tools and use them in ways that completely flaunt every sort of regulation and control.
Well, but of course, bad actors aren't going to be slowed down by any EU regulations or anything else.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are people in the EU not happy. Andreas, the Washington Post quotes Andreas Liebel, who's managing director of the Applied AI Initiative, a German center for the promotion of AI development, who says there will be a couple of innovations that are just not possible or economically feasible anymore thanks to this regulation. It just slows you down in terms of global competition. And I think that's the argument of the acceleration cult, which is don't slow it down. You don't know what's going to be important or big, and any attempt by a government to say, well, don't do that, is inevitably going to cost us in the long run.
I just don't want to listen to anybody whose area of dogmatism starts with effective, just like I don't want to read a tweet from someone whose bio says free thinker as their first line. It's like effective. I hope Sam Bankman-Fried has reduced the
effective is
the
a bad word,
to,
isn't it? Yeah.
Well, effective means override all reason in the favor of a thing we're calling reason, because we will talk louder than you can about it.
The New York Times had an article, the AI subculture's motto, go, go, go. They talk about a party on Monday night last night, a few hours after the OpenAI developers event in San Francisco. Under colorful lights and screens showing anime images, the mostly young, mostly male crowd danced to a DJ set by Grimes. A big banner on the wall read, "Accelerate or die." Another sign showed a diagram of an AI neural network emblazoned with the motto, "Come and take it." An AI startup handed out promotional flyers that read, "The messenger to the gods is available to you."
Which, Leo, that reminds me, Anthony Lewandowski, the former Google self-driving engineer who went
Paid
to
a
Uber,
massive
generated
fine.
a huge lawsuit,
Yeah.
faced criminal penalties, was pardoned by Trump. He founded a church of AI called Way of the Future. It went defunct a couple years ago, but according to Bloomberg, just last month or so, he announced he had relaunched it, and they're basically looking to worship AI as a god.
That might be proactive, probably a smart thing to do just in case. I for one,
Is this I for one welcome our
AI overlords.
Sorry.
Great minds. You
just
read
in case.
a very long piece in the New York. There have been two really good pieces on AI in the New York Times and the New Yorker. And in the New York Times piece, they talk a little bit about how this kind of movement got started in 2015 with Larry Page and Elon Musk at an exclusive Napa resort. I think I know the resort. I think it's where Lisa and I got married. They were sitting around the campfire, all night discussion, and Larry Page ended up. And by the way, this was the break that caused Elon Musk never to talk to Larry Page, the founder of Google, again. Larry is proposing that let AI rise to the occasion. Let it become the next species. Elon said, "You're crazy. We're humans. We got to protect ourselves." To which Larry said to Elon, "You're a species racist, a speciesist." And Elon was so offended he's never talked to him again. But the idea, which apparently is, au courant with this group, that this is a new species that we are kind of creating to replace us. I can understand people being a little nervous about that. I think that may also be overselling the value of AI.
Well, for now, right?
Maybe not. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited. I think I'm falling in the camp where let's see where this goes. I don't think AI is going to I don't think it's going to be the Terminator. It's not Skynet, or is it? Should we be worried about that?
All I know is, back to my bad actors point, people are going to be doing really bad things.
But that's going to happen no matter what we do.
It's going to happen no matter what. And if we're not ready to address it with countermeasures that are capable of addressing it, then things are going to not go well. So I definitely feel like, call it an arms race, call it cat and mouse. We have to be able to respond to what negative things are going to be done with these technologies.
I think that's fair. And we know that'll happen. Steve Gibson's been saying that it's only a matter of time before hackers start using AI to create more and better attacks. And it's maybe not even that they're better, that there are just so many of them that you can't fight them, right?
I've just wondered why they aren't using AI now to write better scripts. I still get terrible images and
there should be no ungrammatical phishing scams anymore, right?
I mean, I know there's an argument that sometimes it not sounding fluent or accurate it makes people more susceptible who are maybe not as informed on the internet. I don't know. Although Apple just sent me a thing about an AppleCare renewal that I swore to God was a phishing message. I showed it to my wife. I posted it at Mastodon, and I'm like, maybe Apple needs to use AI to write their legitimate messages better. It looked so close to phishing. I could not.
But it was real?
It was real.
Oh,
it was real.
My God.
It just looked, everything about it seemed like, and someone pointed out Apple's still running their back end from a long time.
And I apologize to Jay Sign Up again in our Discord, but what if we are the Neanderthals? And here's Homo sapiens coming along, and we say, "Oh, we knew, don't let them take over. They have fire." I mean, what if we are the Neanderthals? What if it's time for the next thing?
Yeah.
We have, I guess, every right.
Hundreds of years in the future, when they're looking under the hood of whatever AI, and they'll say, "Oh, here's a remnant of human code, like we have remnants of Neanderthal DNA."
You had some human code in your DNA. Yeah. Wow. Let's take a little break. We're going to get off the AI subject and move on. To me, it's they made Time Magazine made Taylor Swift the Person of the Year. It was AI, and we're going to look back. As wonderful as Tay-Tay is and all that, 5 years from now, you're not going to look back and say, look at how the world has changed thanks to Taylor Swift. But you absolutely will be saying, oh my God, look how things have changed in the last 5 years because of AI. I think there's no doubt in my mind. This is, to me, the equivalent of the invention of the computer, the invention of the internet. This is that important. Am I wrong? Is that overselling?
What if we find out Taylor Swift was AI all along?
Now
She's
there
very
you got
effective.
something. Yeah.
I don't know. It is important. There's something really exciting about it, but it's all been negatively exciting because it's been introduced in such a bad and unsafe way. I feel like if it had been, there's a time, I don't think we're at a point in history where it could have been introduced gradually, but there is something mind-blowing about being able to take a trillion words of text and produce, you know, what, even if it's essentially the world's best autocorrect, it's still extraordinary.
It's amazing.
What it can do. It's just overhyped. It's so extraordinary, and it's so overhyped. If you just take it for what it is, incredible human development. Yeah.
Honestly, I feel very fortunate that I have been able to live through the personal computer revolution and to directly impart of it and affected by the internet revolution. I mean, it's clear that has been a mind-boggling shift in humanity, and I think I'm going to get to see a third. How many people in the history of humans have gotten to see more than one? 3. I'm excited, and you know what? It could all go really wrong, but so what? I think that this is a chance to see what can happen. I'm willing to take that chance. Let's put it this way. It's not going really right with humans so far.
Right. And even if you were to say, I'm not willing to take that chance, I'm sorry. What are you going to do about it at this point? Yeah.
Too late, Leo. Our show today brought to you by nuts.com. The best stuff in the world. I love it. And you know what? If you're a business and you want to keep your employees happy, nuts.com. Studies show that 67% of employees believe, this is an interesting study, 67% of employees believe access to snacks positively impacts job satisfaction. Happy employees are 20% more productive. This is the best trail mix I've ever had. Harvest trail mix from nuts.com. It's their one-stop shop for the highest quality foods for business. They offer delicious office snacks, corporate gifts. You can get wholesale ingredients from them. More than 50,000 companies choose nuts.com for their business needs, from offices to hotels to restaurants, retail stores. With nuts.com, there's something for every business. I love it because every time I get a package from nuts.com, it's the freshest stuff. When you work with nuts.com for your business, you unlock exclusive benefits. There's volume discounts, there's options for credit terms, and there's more. But there's really happy employees. And boss, you'll be happy too. Nuts.com. They make ordering for your business quick and easy. Be great for a holiday package from your business. Right now, Nuts.com is offering new business customers a free gift with purchase and, get ready for this, free shipping on orders of $125 or more at nuts.com/twit. Go check out all of the delicious options at nuts.com/twit. Check out all the delicious options at nuts.com/twit. You'll get a free gift and free shipping when you spend $125 or more. Nuts.com/twit. Love these nuts. When they said, can we buy an ad? I said, buy an ad. I will give you 100 ads. I love this stuff. All right, moving right along. I guess we could. I don't want to drop AI. I love the subject, but I will. Let's talk beeper.
Oh, I'd love to talk beeper.
So Tuesday on MacBreak Weekly. So first of all, beeper.com, which was started by the founder of Pebble Watch, Andrew Michikowski. Originally, the plan, and I signed up, I got on the waiting list, and I eventually got in. Beeper.com is they're going to run Mac Minis in their network center, and you'll be able to log into the Mac Mini with your Apple ID using their Beeper app on Android or Windows, and then be able to get legitimately Apple messages on your Android device. Okay, fine. There are other companies doing this. Remember the one that Nothing Phone used that had to actually go out of business because it was so insecure? Honestly, it's hard for me to recommend something where you give your Apple credentials to a third party. It just seems like a bad idea, right, Glenn?
Yeah. Absolutely. The beeper mini thing was interesting because they were taking advantage, sounds like they were taking advantage of Apple's notifications API or notification system.
Yeah.
And I wondered, I did a deep dive. Apple's got this feature coming called contact key verification. It's coming out with iOS 17.2, and it'll allow kind of a whisper scale secure conversation because it no longer makes Apple the weak point. And I mean, Apple's basically said a kind of advanced announcement. It removes them from being the weak point in the cryptographic chain of trust. So I was just diving deeply into the iMessage protocol not that long ago. And when these guys came out, I'm like, there is no way that they can insert themselves into Apple's chain of trust without Apple's permission, because Apple runs the key servers that maintain a list of all of the keys that are assigned to iMessage accounts. And without access to that, there's nothing they could be doing that would be secure enough to meet the level of protection that Apple offers within its system.
So it's a really interesting story. It all starts with a high school kid named JJ Tech. You can read his blog at jjtech.dev. It says, high school student learning many different languages and technologies. Yeah. So this kid's going to have definitely a full ride at Harvard or MIT, because he figured out, he wrote a Python program that impersonated Apple's, basically got you on to Apple's server from a non-Apple device using Apple's push notification service APN. It's bidirectional. He figured it out. He hacked it. It's been around. This Python repository has been around for some time. The folks at Beeper, I guess, figured it out, talked to JJ Tech, who lives in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and said, this might be really, he only published a proof of concept. This might be a way that we can eliminate that Mac Mini in the server room and have people log in directly to their Apple accounts on an Android device, allowing them to be blue bubbles on messages. So they put this out Tuesday morning. They had a 7-day, 1-week-long free trial, and then it was going to be $2 a month, fairly reasonable for it. I installed it immediately and started sending messages, and yeah, it looked just like I was on an iPhone. In fact, it even had my iPhone phone number, although if I wasn't able to get it to work, but there was a way to have your Google phone or your Android phone number is the phone number originating. All my Apple devices said another device is logged on. Another Apple device is logged on to the network, just so you know. I mean, it worked just like I got a new iPhone, except I didn't. Then I sent a message to Micah yesterday, and it said, no. When we were talking about this on Tuesday on MacBreak Weekly, the question came up immediately. Well, can Apple stop this? It was Beeper said, Michikowski said. In fact, he was on Tech News Weekly. You can listen to the interview on Thursday. He was a little cagey, but basically their position is Apple can't stop us without breaking their system for real users. So there's nothing Apple can do about this. Wrong.
I didn't buy that when they said that. Yeah. I thought that was the hubris that leads to the downfall of people doing things.
They didn't even operate for as long as a 7-week free trial, 7-day free trial. It took them 3 days before Apple just went, and it's gone. It's broken. Now they say they're working really hard to get it working again.
It's fundamentally a bad idea, sadly. Like, I wish Apple would support something like Whisper or some kind of end-to-end encryption algorithm. I mean, you look at the rest of the industry I've seen a few people point out, like, this is an American problem. The rest of the world uses WhatsApp. You can enable the features in WhatsApp that give you end-to-end encryption. There's a few things you have to do to make sure that's how you're set up, but you could do that. So in America, we rely much more on text messaging. It's funny, every time I go to Europe, I can't reach people, and they're like, why are you sending me texts? What are you doing? What's your WhatsApp? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong system. But I think Apple has engineered this thing in such a way that, and they're improving it, this new, as I say, contact key verification will be even better. But we do need a more generic industry-wide solution. So kind of trying to expand Apple's is probably a worse method than having an industry-wide system.
We, on MacBreak Weekly, we said, okay, we'll see. I bet Apple can turn it off. B, Apple may look at how many people download it and use it and decide it's de minimis, big deal. Although we know Apple hates the idea of somebody making $2 a month off of their technology. And 3, I thought maybe they wouldn't disable it because maybe it would look anti-monopolistic or look monopolistic to do so. Because, of course, they're under a lot of scrutiny right now. It looks like they're going to be able to skate on the Digital Markets Act in the EU and not have to introduce interoperability. But they did announce they were going to support Google's RCS, Rich Communication Service, which would allow you to communicate effectively with Google phones. There were a few problems with Beeper Mini. It wasn't really any better than using WhatsApp, and that's part of the problem. You couldn't make it your default messenger on Android. So it didn't replace Android messages. You still had to use those. So you had to open another app and send a message just as you would with Telegram or WhatsApp or anything else. So that really didn't get you anywhere. All it really got you was being a blue bubble.
Maybe this guy just gave Apple an idea. He had the Pebble Watch before the Apple Watch, and then
Apple
had its watch.
And
Eric, maybe Apple will just start charging Android users. Hey, he was going to charge you $2. We'll charge you $1.
Yeah, poor Andrew.
Joe in the Discord channel, in the Club Twit Discord channel, she pointed out Apple has said they're trying to work with the GSM Association that maintains standards to on an encrypted level for RCS,
yes.
Which even though it's been around for years now and Google's been pushing it, there still isn't one. So maybe Apple putting its finger on the scale, maybe the Google and they can actually finally make that happen.
I think they will put RCS in, whether the DMA requires them to or not. And it looks like, by the way, that the DMA is not going to consider iMessage one of the systems that they regulate because they say they're not big enough in business. So they're not enough. Right. They're not dominant enough in the EU for them to be liable to the DMA, which would require interoperability. So Apple probably doesn't have to do anything like this. I did point out, or somebody pointed out on MacBreak Weekly, maybe it was Justin Snell, that the only thing that if Apple decides to kill it, the thing that they will say is, well, we have to for security reasons.
It is a security hole. This is absolutely a flaw, not a feature, and Apple should plug the hole because imagine someone exploiting it nefariously. They could register a zillion numbers and perpetuate a blue bubble identity fraud of a level that we have not seen yet because it requires one-to-one registration.
Right.
So I actually think it is a legitimate security concern. It also shows, I don't know, the iMessage is kind of an old standard. That's kind of the problem. This new thing they're coming out with is updating it a bit, but Apple really kind of has hooked itself to a star that's a little what's the word? Not burnished. It's
frayed.
Tarnished. That's the word.
That's a
old
good
tarnished
word.
Star.
It makes me think too of the time that Apple had iChat, and which was really the predecessor to iMessage, and iChat supported AIM, it supported Yahoo Messenger, it supported MSN Messenger. It was more or less an open client, and Apple's kind of moved as far away from that position as possible. Of course, Apple back then was only on the Mac desktop, an upstart. This was a way to get its hooks in. But now that it's got its hooks in, it's kind of pulled up the castle door behind it.
Apple in
What's
a statement.
the difference?
Go ahead.
Sorry, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
What's the difference in the ecosystem development between the US, where the majority of people, I think that's right, the majority of people use iMessage, and Android is sort of a second.
If you look at the history
maybe I'm wrong about that.
If you look at the history of text messaging, SMS was huge in Europe long before it took over here in the US. They started messaging early, but in Europe it was prohibitively expensive to use SMS, right? You were paying 10 cents a message. And so people quickly found data-based ways to message, like WhatsApp, which is the dominant one in Asia. It's Line in Japan. It's WeChat in China. they found messaging apps that worked and that didn't cost 10 cents a message. And so I think Europe was just early adopters on this with SMS. They had this cost structure that it cost us money to send messages here, but not as much as it did in Europe. So I think there was a lot more.
Typically you would get an all you can send, unlimited
here in the
text
U.S.
message.
Yeah, right. So which is
strange because iMessage eliminates that cost, but it's not a real cost for most people.
Of course not. So I think we were late to SMS, and then because of this cost structure, we were late to internet-based messaging. And then Apple comes along. I don't think Apple's only about 50% of the market, I think, in the U.S. So there's still plenty of people using other messaging apps.
Well, you know what the big thing was, I think, is Apple, this is part of how they were trying to make iMessage a winner, was they have increasingly added more sophisticated features that require use of their proprietary iMessage, where SMS evolved into MMS, multimedia service, and you could start sending photos and other things, but it's still a weird melange of features, and every carrier and phone seemed to have operating system release had different support. So Apple was like, hey, we're just going to make that just drag stuff in, and now you can unsend your messages and you can edit them. And every release that goes by recently, they've added more features to distinguish themselves from the best MMS and even the best that RCS can currently offer. So, that I think is how the reason everyone has that blue bubble complaint is that Apple made iMessage so attractive when you're in a mixed conversation, like a mixed marriage. You have MMS and Apple users. It's like, oh, we just had a downgrade from the great experience of iMessage because one of you can't support whatever feature we all like. And
look at the messaging.
That's Apple's trying to sell phones, but
look at the messaging at beeper.com. The whole point, full-size photos and videos plus replies and reactions, join iPhone-only group chats, turn your Android phone number blue, get a blue bubble. I mean, that's really... And let's not forget that in the discovery in Apple versus Epic, we found out there were the smoking guns that Apple... we saw the emails from Eddie Q to Craig Federighi that, Eddie wanted to put iMessage on Android. And Craig Federighi at Apple said, we can't do that. If we did that, every parent would buy a cheap Android phone for their kids. They knew it was lock-in, and not to the messaging system, but to the Apple ecosystem. It was important.
Although it's swinging back around, is the iOS 17 release added more features to MMS support within messages. So it's actually, they've improved the parity, and I don't know if that was to assuage EU concerns, to kind of push it off. And Apple, it's like, they now have iCloud keychain support in Windows. Apple TV Plus works on every single platform and in every browser, so they could do whatever they want. It feels like there is a little bit at this point of Apple just saying exactly that's a marketing issue. It's peak. They can implement an Android iMessage app without any real trouble. So
Apple's response, which is sort of predictable. This is from The Verge. Apple's senior PR manager Nadine Haija said, "We took steps to protect our users by blocking techniques that exploit fake credentials in order to gain access to iMessage. These techniques pose significant risks to user security and privacy, including the potential for metadata exposure and enabling unwanted messages, spam, and phishing attacks. We continue to make updates in the future to protect our users." So they have a pretty good excuse for doing this, and it was only a matter of time. We took steps to protect our users by blocking techniques that exploit fake credentials. I mean, you can't argue with that, right? It was a great saga for about 3 days. Apparently, Beeper thinks still they're going to get this working. They have extended their free trial offer. I just have to remember to unsubscribe before I go home tonight.
Anyone want to take bets that Eric Majakowski ends up selling Beeper to Apple and working on the messages team?
Well, really, JJ Tech should just get a job at Apple. First, he should go to MIT on a full ride, and then he should get a job at Apple. And I'm sure that's really going to be the outcome. And I don't see a future for Beeper. I'm sorry. I mean, even if it's secure, and I have no reason to think it's not, it's just a bad idea to give your Apple credentials to a third party. Don't do it. That's just a bad idea. And I really think we should have interoperability. I mean, I think that's a big deal, and I think Apple is acting in their interest, not in their customers' interest, by keeping iMessage only on iPhones.
This from the guy who gave his DNA to 23andMe.
Oh, God, what a mistake that was.
Yeah, I've got a sample of it right here. I just ordered it.
Yeah,
off
you
the,
probably
dark
do.
web.
Yeah, the hackers are selling it. So this one is another one of those slow brewing stories. You know, when they first talked about it, it sounded like it was just a small number. It was a credential stuffing attack. This week, we learned that the data breach at 23andMe, the genetic testing company, affects 6.9 million profiles. What percentage of the total customer base is that? I don't know, but it's got to be significant, right? It looks like,
I don't know. They have more users than.
Do they?
Well, they said. Well, here we go. We got the data. They said 0.1% of users was about 14,000 people. So if you multiply that by 1,000, is that 140 million? Am I doing the right math?
They
there?
can't possibly have 140 million profiles.
That can't be right. Am I doing the math wrong? No, it's 14 mil. I'm sorry, 14
million. So
Sorry,
so we're talking half.
Ish.
We're talking half.
That's great.
Which means I'm 50-50. I'm in that bunch. Now, what did they get? It doesn't sound like they got, they didn't get credit card numbers or anything. The hackers would be able to access anything on those profiles, ancestry information. 23andMe isn't exactly like, here's your genome. It's more like, well, you probably have wet earwax. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's I'm not too worried about that. I do.
Well, by the way, as a Jewish person, I don't really love to know that who knows about my genetic heritage, because I also did the spit in a tube for 23andMe. I mean, you could just, I just said what I am, but it's also, there is
that's
that
true.
fear among
that's a good
folks
point.
with ethnicities.
That's an excellent point. The Nazis, when they came into Holland, looked for the registries because for years, civic fathers in Dutch cities would record your religion. And they were all in a big book, everybody who lived in Holland. So they knew exactly who were Jews and who weren't. Many of the cities tried to burn those books before the Nazis came in, but in many cases, the Nazis were able to use them. So I completely understand your reluctance to have that be public record. It's just, it's bad. It was apparently a credential stuffing attack that started with 14,000 and then spread to everybody else, 6.9 million. It's just another breach. What are you going to do? I figure everything there is out there is too late.
What scares me about this is that this is 23andMe, a commercial operation that was offering some information and data to people who were interested, and two very smart people on our panel today decided it was worthwhile to them to go ahead and share that information. But we're getting to a point in the medical field in general where so much is going to be done with scans and predictive kinds of technology to tell you, things you should do or shouldn't do or might look out for later in life. And that every one of those technologies is a potential leak point like 23andMe.
This is another example of something that has a hazard, but also has a potential public benefit. 23andMe was selling that information to pharma for development of new drugs. I think that was more their business model than getting me to spit in a tube. They could, and it wasn't my personal information, it was aggregate information, but it was useful to them. I did an interview with a guy known as the father of genomics, George Church, about a year ago. He had the Personal Genome Project, which at the time, the whole idea was, we don't promise to keep this private. The whole point of you giving us your genome is so that it could be used by scientists and researchers in general. And generally, the value of this is tying your genome to your phenotype, to your history, medical history, your illnesses and stuff. So same with 23andMe. You would fill out all these questionnaires about yourself, which they would then use to tie to. That's how they would figure out, is there a marker here that indicates a history of autism or whatever. Eric convinced me to sign up for his Nebula Genomics, which was considerably more expensive. But unlike 23andMe, it wasn't a sample. It's the full genome. I can't remember what I was spent. It might have been $1,000. It's probably cheaper now, but it was expensive. But I did it not because I wanted to know, but because I thought it would be valuable to give this information to science. Now, people have pointed out when I did 23andMe, and it's even more so with Nebula, that I'm not only giving my genomic information away, I'm giving my kids' genomic information away. All right.
And your relatives.
And my
in
relatives.
general.
Yeah, so we're going to find out. This is how you find out you have a serial killer in your family as you sign up for 23andMe.
Well,
Not them.
that happened, right? Was it
a bunch of times now?
Yeah, was it the Zodiac killer they caught? I can't remember which one. No, it was
Golden State Killer.
Golden State Killer.
But it's been now. It's been happening so much. Denise, you probably know more about this because it's such a legal topic, but it feels like I read a story every week that's like, well, they found so-and-so because they figured out, it's the second cousin of whatever, and they got a DNA sample by just, grabbing a discarded cup from the person they were surveilling, etc.
Right. And the scary thing is the, police showing up at your house and calling you a suspect when you have absolutely no involvement whatsoever.
Well,
yeah,
and that's true with face.
Share genetic material.
That's true with face recognition too. I mean, that's the problem is these things can be misused, and false positives are a big problem, obviously.
Yeah.
But I do think there's also a public benefit to having, and George Church thought so. Esther Dyson was the first person to sign up for the Personal Genome Project. And I tried to sign up and I couldn't get into it, but the idea was this is a public benefit. You're giving up your genotype and your phenotype so that people can do research. So maybe we can, find the BRCA, the BRCA gene, so that we can then say to women, you have a severe risk for breast cancer, and that could be a value, right? Anyway,
they do that now.
They do that. I know. They do BRCA testing. I know.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing, right? That's a lifesaver.
Fun fact. Back in the day, I registered BRCA1.com and BRCA2.com for the company that had discovered the genes. This is like in 95.
Wow.
And I was like, I wonder what those are. All right, we'll just register them for you, because I had a company that you could actually register domains through.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's funny.
It's I admit there's some risk. This is like the AI risk. I guess I'm more of a technology optimist, or willing to take the risk. I don't know.
This is a bit of a left turn, but on the same theory of like technology, risk from technology. It seems like San Francisco and Oakland, which were among the first cities really to regulate privacy-related technologies, specifically cameras, are now really embracing cameras as a surveillance and crime-fighting device.
I was just driving down the main street in Petaluma yesterday. They're putting a camera up at the intersection. And sure, I'm sure they're going to say, well, that's just to get scofflaws. But they're recording every person who comes and goes into Petaluma now.
Well, they're what the police are saying is that they need these cameras and also the, license plate scanning OCR technology, to solve crimes, and that like some of the smash and grab retail thefts are being solved through.
So I have a solution: regulate the police use of this technology instead of regulating the technology. Right, the misuse of it is the problem.
And Oakland, for example, I believe kind of came to a compromise where footage that was not actively being used in an investigation is, I believe, going to be deleted after 30 days. So, they're kind of finding those like common sense middle ground compromises instead of saying you cannot use cameras because they're too invasive of privacy.
Let me take a little break. We'll come back with more. Our esteemed panel on it is the second day of Hanukkah. Glenn, is that right?
Fourth night tonight?
Fourth night. It started Friday,
Fourth
right?
night?
So this is Saturday.
Started on Thursday.
Okay.
I'm such a good Jew.
Where's your menorah? Didn't you light the candles for crying out?
Using my great grandma Dora's menorah. Family story is that she was struck by lightning once and survived as a child. And my grandfather got this story because of a traveling salesman in the 50s. I can't remember. He came by the furniture store that we ran and told him, it's like, oh, I was a yeshiva bucher, which was like a student, like a Torah student who lived with my great-grandmother's family when she was a child. And he was there when she was struck by lightning.
Wow.
I've told my children this story, so it'll survive 5 generations.
That is wild.
I don't even know if it's true. I don't remember if it was ever turned out to be
That
true,
is
but he
wild.
remembered.
Well, I have my Google coloring book and my menorah here, and I'm going to light, that was Thursday night, we'll light that candle.
Right, Thursday,
And then Friday night and Saturday night.
Next
So
year,
this is-
Hanukkah starts on, guess, I don't know if anyone else is Jewish, but guess when Hanukkah starts next year. It could be anywhere from sometime in November to late December. You guess. When do you think it starts?
Christmas Day.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Am I right?
I thought it was going to be like November 29th, and next year it's December 25th. It's the first night of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Isn't Hanukkah like a parable of, the triumph of technology? Like, they.
Well, if you consider an oil
lights.
lamp technology, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It was cutting edge
I guess it was
technology.
at
Like
the
this
time.
oil lamp lasts for 7 days. It's
Conservation efforts. It's lunar month, solar year. It gets very confusing, even in the faith. It's
It
like,
is
wait,
a tech.
what?
You're right, though. Owen,
This
that's a very
technology
good
story.
point. We're celebrating
really good.
technology, the lamp that lasted a week. I love that.
Thank God no one was trying to trade crypto back then.
Our blockchain is
it would have burned up all the oil in the first night.
Anyway, happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Here in Petaluma, I mentioned this earlier, the Chabad group, which is one of the local Jewish groups, hires a helicopter, and they fly over the fairgrounds, and all the little children, they gather, and they drop the gelt, the chocolate coins, out of the helicopter.
My God.
And it reminds me of Les Nessman for some reason. God is my witness. I thought the gelt could fly. Anyway,
Oh my
don't
God.
get under the gelt, but do get some. I hope you get some and spin the dreidel and have, definitely got to have some sufganiyot and maybe a little latke and enjoy your Hanukkah. And of course, Festivus is coming up in a couple of weeks. So get that. We have our Festivus poll, John, right? We haven't gotten rid of it. We got the Festivus poll. Airing of grievances is coming up. Twit will not be 2 weeks from now is Christmas Eve, so we won't do a live Twit. I didn't want to subject our panelists to that, so we're going to do our holiday episode, which is previously recorded, the Old Farts episode. That's going to be a lot of fun with Jeff Jarvis and Steve Gibson and Doc Searles and Rod Pyle. And what I've asked each of them to do is talk about their area of expertise. So Jeff's going to do AI, the year in AI. Steve's going to do the year in security. Rod, the year in space. And Doc, the year in open source. That'll be kind of fun. And then New Year's Eve, December 31st, no show then. That's when we'll have our best of episodes. So there's another show next week. We'll take a couple of weeks off, and then we'll be back January 7th for the beginning of 2024. Holy camole. Our show today brought to you by x.ai Learning. They've been with us since the 2010s. I think 10 years. Oh, you say, what? No, I never heard of the IT Pro TV, right? You know them since they started 10 years ago. Well, they're now called x.ai Learning. Get this stat, 94% of CIOs and CISOs agree attracting and retaining talent, cybersecurity experts, is job one. That's their job. So if you want to get into IT, there couldn't be a better time. And if you've got an IT skill or you've got an IT team, this is the time to sharpen your skills. With today's IT talent shortage, it's more important than ever for your team's skills to be current. 87% of companies recognize there is a skill gap in their employees. Now, that's tough because to assess your IT team can be very difficult, or used to be, until x.ai Learning came along with Insights. This is such a cool tool. It's a skills gap analysis tool that you can have your team members take so that you know where they are expert and where they need work. And make sure that the training you provide is not redundant, because nobody wants to learn something they already learned, but actually working and doing what you need. It's a quick 1-hour assessment. Insights from x.ai Learning will allow you not only to see, but to understand and fix the skills gaps on your IT team. Very useful. You can identify specific skills gaps in your employees, see where those weaknesses lie, empower your team with training that isn't cookie cutter. It's not the same old thing, but it's specialized, personalized to where they need work. Why waste time and money with blanket training when you can be very precise? It's a brilliant idea. Insights offers detailed solutions, support, and strategy. It issues recommendations. It'll actually put together a training plan for individuals or your whole team. You can even compare your results against other organizations, so you'll know where you stand. Test your skills, close the gaps. They're practical labs that allow trainees to focus on the skills they need most. There's great training, short form, entertaining, and informative content, 7,200 hours worth, brand new, fresh stuff. They add new episodes every day from their 7 studios. ACI Learning helps you retain your team and entrust them to thrive while investing in the security of your business. And by the way, these aren't just videos, because we've all seen bad training videos. These are well done. IT Pro TV made their name by giving you quality content from professionals in the field who are enthusiastic and passionate, and their passion communicates. So it makes it fun to learn and informative. That's probably why ACI Learning stomps the competition with a 50% higher completion rate. People love ACI's training. These are the solutions your business has been waiting for. Future-proof your team and company with insights from ACI Learning. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit. Twit listeners, the discounts are huge, up to 65% off an IT Pro Enterprise solution plan. Depends on the size of your team. So fill out the form and find out how much you'll save at go.acilearning.com/twit. We thank them so much for the support they've given us all year long as a studio sponsor, our flagship sponsor on the network. Thank you, ACI Learning and IT Pro. You know, sometimes technology can be misused for all sorts of reasons. Wall Street Journal story. Actors recorded videos on Cameo. It turned out the videos were intended for Russian propaganda. Did you see this story? They asked Priscilla Presley, Frodo Baggins, Elijah Woods. They asked John C. McGinley. He was in, was it Grey's Anatomy, ER? They asked Hank from Breaking Bad, Dean Norris, to record videos for somebody named Vladimir, who was having trouble with drugs and was really trying to get his life together and was going into, rehab. Well, it turns out it was a Russian disinformation campaign. They took the videos they commissioned on Cameo and edited them. In one of the videos, Elijah Wood was talking to somebody named Vladimir, referring to drugs and alcohol, saying, quote, "I just want to make sure you're getting help." Well, it turns out the Vladimir was supposed to be Vladimir Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine. Mike Tyson recorded one. Scrubs, that's what John C. McGinley's in. Kate Flannery of The Office, who looks like she had a bottle of booze on her video. So they got him to record these videos because, you go to Cameo, you pay $100 or whatever, and you get the video recorded. And then they would chop it up to make it look like all these celebrities were worried about Vladimir Zelensky. I don't know if it fooled anybody. Cameo had nothing to say. Although there's good news. You can get former House of Representatives George Santos on Cameo to make a message for you and your loved ones for just $200.
Yeah, but it'll turn out your card was charged for $50,000 later. Watch out. Cameo, did you see there was a... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting they decided to fork over the money and not make deep fakes of these people.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good point. Maybe they are. Maybe that's, that was just the beginning.
The market's working. There's a great story that came out weeks ago about Cameo and what a dysfunctional company they reportedly are. And I just think what a weird time to live when it's like, oh yeah, well, I'll just pay $60 to get this actor to, there's so many people on it.
They're cheap. Priscilla Presley's $200, George Santos, $200. You could get, anyway. I thought about it for a while, but I'm glad I'm not doing it.
That's why people go to Comic-Cons. The folks who go there, get to do photos, they get guaranteed minimums, and they can make a small fortune. And people are so happy they get to see and have this interaction with someone they admire. It's a neat thing, but anyway,
it's risky. I have seen
risky.
A lot of people say they don't comment on William Shatner, who does this, but will refuse to engage because he's trying to do as many as possible. And I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, he's a jerk because he won't talk to you."
That's sad.
Yeah. I only know that because I follow Bill on x.com. And some good news.
I don't know what that is.
Never heard of X?
Nope.
Xitter, which is pronounced, well, you pronounce it any way you want. Apparently.
Russian X.
Xitter. Apparently, Jitter has invited Alex Jones back, which I think is pretty appalling. Now, this in the face of all the trouble they're having with advertisers, bring the biggest disseminator of misinformation, disinformation, and pure lies, a guy who's been banned from every social site for years. Why bring him back?
And a reminder that, Alex Jones's lies weren't just speculative misinformation. He actively directed people to harass and hound these poor parents who lost children in the Sandy Hook shooting.
It's shocking.
It was conduct, not speech.
And by the way, he owes $1 billion to those families, money they'll probably never see. But
maybe Musk will let him monetize and he can make some of that money.
Yeah.
So this is the worst part of this. Yesterday, Elon put a poll on Twitter saying, should I reinstate Alex Jones? The result of the poll, guess what? 70% in favor. So this morning, Elon tweets, the people have spoken, and so it shall be. All the posts were visible again. He retweeted a post about his video game, InfoWars, and, of course, his personal account had been banned since 2018. And rightly so. I just don't understand what Elon is up to. I really don't.
Does he understand what he's up to, though? I mean, this is, I think, the very first Twit I was on was a year and a half ago. And Denise, I might have been on.
I think we were, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's
and
nice.
we talked about Elon the whole time.
Right. Oh my God! Because I think he just made the offer. But it's true. It's like, I think, never has anyone been seen by so many people, rightly or wrongly, as a genius, and now by so many people has had such a fall where most people, I think he's a tool with a very small. He's just a creature of pure ego-driven activity, and I guess he's just flailing. It's just a terrible thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's free speech, but he's not exactly a free speech advocate. Go ahead and criticize him or Tesla and see what happens. Speaking of Tesla, there's a Tesla whistleblower who has been a former Tesla employee who's been talking about their self-driving Lukasz Krupski leaked data, including customer complaints. And you might have heard about this earlier about Tesla braking and self-driving software. He leaked it to a German newspaper in May. He was on with the BBC saying he believes the technology powering this firm's self-driving vehicles is not ready, is not safe. He says, I don't think the hardware is ready and the software is ready. It affects all of us because we are essentially experiments in public roads. So even if you don't have a Tesla, your children still walk the footpath. And, anyway, the bad news for Elon continues to come. There was a story about Linda Yaccarino in the New York Times. It turns out maybe she wasn't the best person in the world at NBC either.
You saw also the strike is a strike that started in Sweden against Tesla, and now it's spread to Denmark and Norway, so that they won't unload the cars. Because Tesla was trying to divert them from Sweden into other countries to unload, and it's kind of a union issue, I think. I'm not exactly sure. It is actually a very small thing because Tesla can't do anything that is pro-union or, even tacitly. So they've now turned to something that's probably affecting a really huge issue for them for being able to bring cars into Northern Europe.
So he also has his own AI, right, on Twitter called Grock, which is pretty much just a rude dad joke. I don't know if you noticed, but Grock has been maybe saying some things it shouldn't. In response to one query, Grock said, I'm afraid I cannot fulfill that request as it goes against OpenAI's use case policy. Apparently, Grok is just OpenAI with dad jokes.
Is that because they ripped off ChatGPT answers?
That's a good question.
It sounds like something Microsoft did with Bing and Google.
Yeah.
With Bing imitating Google in the early days.
OpenAI engineer said the issue is the web is full of ChatGPT outputs, so we accidentally picked some of them up when we trained Grok. That was a huge surprise. They say that, don't worry, no OpenAI code was used to make Grok. Okay, fine.
Well, if they tell me something,
don't worry
true,
until the lawsuit.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Isn't Grok woke though? Grok. This is the 10 years ago. Would you lose your mind? Isn't Grok woke? Question mark.
Grok is not. Grok is anti-woke, isn't it? Grok is
but people. I think there's a bunch of. There was a big explosion because people are claiming, the right-wing folks are claiming that Grok is woke.
Oh my God! Of course.
My kids texted me this story. They said, literally, I'm getting a thing for my teens. Did you see, Dad?
This is
Grok
from
is
Mashable.
woke.
Grok is a woke, crypto-loving incel comic. Grok and Musk don't agree on everything, but they both love a good roast. Well, a lot of but by the way, notice all these tweets were deleted. So I don't know.
Great. I
don't know if the word went out. Don't roast Grok.
My biggest problem with it is Elon calls it some sort of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but that's not the sci-fi reference for Grok.
It pissed me off. It pissed
Thank
me
you
off.
for your nerdery.
You're welcome.
The Grok press release mentioned Hitchhiker's Guide. It's from Stranger in a Strange Land. What the hell is he thinking?
Yes.
Well, we need a Butlerian jihad. That's what we need, obviously, if I can be even as nerdy as
This is the x.ai announcement. Grok is an AI modeled after the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's why we named it Grok? No. No. I don't understand.
Also, the AI and the deep thought didn't answer generalized questions. It answered one question.
42.
Yeah, it only had one question and it gave one answer. You're really not going to like it.
Now, is it a spoiler to say that the entire Earth was a computer built? Never mind. I won't say it.
I didn't know. What? Sorry.
Elon.
I think you can't spoil books that are 30 or 50 years old.
I don't know. There are those who
Beware the mice.
Beware
the mice.
Remember the mice. That's all you need to know. If there's a single person in this audience who has not either listened to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the original BBC, by the way, that's the one, the original BBC radio play, I think there's a dozen of them, or read the books, I guess watched the movie or TV show.
No, not the movie.
Not the movie.
Fear the movie.
I have a soft spot for the movie.
You like Zaphod Beeblebrox, don't you? That's
yeah, I like the acting maybe more than the script.
Yeah, the actor who plays Zaphod is quite good.
It's got Zoe Deschanel in it. It's got Martin Smith.
Somebody is breathing.
Really
I think it's you, Owen. Either stop breathing.
I hope all of us are breathing.
Or move the microphone.
Do you want to replace me with AI?
Yes. AI does not breathe. Elon's AI startup x.ai has filed to raise $1 billion. Who would lend Elon a penny at this point to raise $1 billion in capital? They filed with the SEC for an equity offer. Would you buy stock in x.ai?
So here's the problem. Here's what's really going on. Elon has been borrowing, and every other rich person in tech does this. In zero interest rate land, they would just borrow against their shares for almost nothing.
Right.
So they didn't have to sell their stock, which is part of the reason why the stock kept going up, because there wasn't selling pressure.
Right.
So Elon's already sold a bunch of Tesla to finance the purchase of Twitter, now X. He, is probably worried about selling more because that would send the price down even more. And yet he can't borrow against it nearly as cheaply. So he's kind of feeling a double pinch. Can't sell, can't borrow. or at least not at a price he might find attractive.
That might be a bigger story than anybody has admitted in technology to date, which is that we were running for years on free money, which has disappeared. What is the impact of that, Owen? I mean, obviously, it's something you cover at the San Francisco Business Times.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's wide ranging. It is in some ways hard to know because sometimes there will be sometimes you'll have a loan that was struck in 2018, 2019, and it's still running under those terms that were struck, and the rate doesn't adjust. The real kind of terrifying thing is what happens when all of those deals have to go out and get refinanced.
Oh yeah. This is coming too, right? I was reading something recently about just how many things the next few years will wind up at the corporate level where they've had it's the zombie. Am I saying this right? It's like the zombie unicorn problem or something. Is that the businesses, they can't raise more money. They aren't profitable yet, but they kind of have a business that sort of works. So they may kind of tool along, but when the debt becomes due at they won't be able to renew that or get new backers, new private equity in or investors or what have you. Is that what's about to happen?
And the other thing is just that, is that like pouring more money into a startup in that kind of like about to be a zombie situation is risky, right? And so the risk adjusted return when you can put money in a bank and get 4 or 5% on a certificate of deposit is just that much less attractive. So it's definitely, we're already seeing it hit venture capital funds. They're not able to raise, venture capital firms are not able to raise big new funds, in the multiple billions of dollars like they were. A handful are, like the big names are. The second tier of VC firms are really getting hit. You're even seeing layoffs. I saw I think OpenView Partners, if I recall correctly, had to reduce the size of its firm after it didn't raise as much money as it wanted to.
So part of what you're saying, if I'm understanding, is investors would rather just park their money somewhere safe and interest earning rather than bet on a risky startup.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to get 0.5% or 0% for your money, you might as well throw it at a venture capital fund. Like, why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're getting that much for your cash, why bother with the risk?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny to see high interest, high yield savings accounts again too. As I try to explain to my kids at some point, I was a kid, I got 5% on a savings account, and they're like, "What? I thought savings account they're getting like 0.1%." Our credit union gives like a booster, so they give a few percentage points for the first $500 to encourage young savers and so forth. But it is strange that we're back at that time. I mean, high inflation caused it, but it felt like we were in this long bubble in which money was, free. Everything was financed at 0%. All the credit, personal credit, all those companies that do the, I can't remember all of them, that do the 4 installment at 0%, Apple's 0%.
The buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
BNPL.
Everything. And it's I'm like, Apple's giving me, or Goldman Sachs for Apple's giving me 4.17% or whatever. I'm like, I'm just throwing my money, throwing my free cash in there while I don't have something to do with it. It's not invested. Yeah.
I got locked into CDs for 6 months at a lower rate last year, Wish I just put it all in my Apple savings account.
The funny thing is, big banks are, generally like they're, it gets very wonky, but they're limited in how much capital they want to hold. So they're not, they're generally not offering very attractive rates because they don't want to soak up more money that they then have to find uses for.
Oh, yeah, because they have to make it productive, right? And if they can't loan it out in a safe way, they're not going off to invest in tech companies and startups and whatever, but they also, it's risky because the economy may be about to contract. Who knows? I don't know. I think we got a soft landing, but we'll see. We will all find out, won't we, if the landing was as soft as it appears to have been.
It wasn't soft for podcasts. I think it was kind of...
Well, there's a giant vacuum out there called Google and Facebook and few other companies that have. I mean, that's the thing is the advertising. I remember
They're
in
sucking up
2001,
all the advertising.
Yeah,
all of
remember
it.
when Owen will remember this very well. Remember when all the technology magazines were so full you couldn't pick them up, and then overnight all the money disappeared and
They're
the
all
market
gone.
collapsed, and the ad dollars sort of took a dip at that point. But then this time around, it doesn't feel. I mean, the pandemic, there was a period there, but it doesn't feel like ad dollars disappeared from the overall market. If you measure overall advertising across newspaper, podcasts, videos, YouTube, online sites, whatever, the overall market keeps growing. It's just getting sucked out from everywhere that was at least, briefly an option like podcasts, but also TV and newspapers. Newspapers continue to have a decline if they're not a specialized publication like a business publication.
This is the graph through 2022 of YouTube's advertising revenue as a percentage of their global revenues, and I'm just going to just go up and up and up and up and up. It's just eating it up,
Yeah.
Amazon is the craziest story in advertising. Like the growth of their advertising business is really something to watch. And, the next big advertising growth story is probably going to be Netflix, which wasn't even in the ad business a couple of years ago.
Could we sell a podcast as a product that gets delivered to your house in 2 days and then advertise it on Amazon? Somehow there's a loop there I'm missing.
Put it in a red envelope. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's a thought. We could have movies by
podcast, press podcasts on LPs.
We've talked about AI so much on the show today, but I am really interested to see what AI is going to do to advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah, and whether
Like
it
what?
actually.
What do you think it would do?
I mean, does it become actually this thing where it's not unwelcome and invasive, and it actually knows you well enough? The people advertising are using tools that actually provide you with useful suggestions instead of unwelcome and I already bought that, or all the bad things about advertising. And on the other end of the spectrum, if it's not useful and a more pleasant experience, is it just a freaking nightmare because it knows everything about you?
I think that is a scenario we need to be cautious about. But I think that in the short term, what you're going to see is a tremendous productivity gain, because there's a lot of grunt work in advertising, especially digital advertising. You have to create the creative, the artwork in different sizes for different social networks. So AI can take one piece of art, resize it, horizontal, vertical, this many pixels, 600 pixels, 300 pixels, etc. They can subtly change the wording and generate 500 versions and then A/B test it and then report back to you like, hey, from our A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever multivariate test, this one was the most effective. So I think we'll see it kind of taking cost and complexity out, making advertising more productive and effective. The hyper personalization thing, the problem is that there aren't really buyers for that stuff. So, it's like, we've long had this dream, that will kind of hyper target advertising, but it turns out it's not really cost effective.
But you know who did it though to great effect in 2016? Donald J. Trump. They did hundreds and hundreds of $100 ad buys on Facebook. Each ad very carefully targeted to a specific political group. And it was extremely effective.
Well, I presume we've all seen Joan is Awful, the Black Mirror episode on Netflix.
Yeah.
Does everybody see? And I'm predicting that for advertising, we'll have the Joan is Awful ads. Is that I talked to a company, it was a few years ago now, I think a couple of years ago, they were ahead of the curve. I'm even forgetting the name of that company. I was going to write an article about them, but they couldn't demonstrate exactly what they were saying yet. But they were talking about what Owen was saying, but were able to generate, or said they'd be able to generate interactive video creative advertising on the fly and do the A/B testing and all the rest as kind of a process. So it was guided. It wasn't just like you hit a button, but it was even their demo was pretty amazing. And I thought, wow, video is compelling. It's extremely hard to produce. It's expensive to produce it well. So you have the format issue, but also the personalization issue. So there may be a new product that is the Joan is Awful product where every single person gets their own unique video ad. Now, the computational part might be too high. Maybe only parts are personalized, but I think there may be ways to speak to people more directly and almost impersonally, where the advertisers don't even know how much data they have to slice because the system is so personalized that no human being would ever be able to see the breadth of different information being delivered to individuals as ads.
Well,
I mean, it's kind of terrifying too.
In Blade Runner 2049, you'd walk by an ad and it would be your name, right? It would talk to you. I think that's probably just around the corner.
Yeah, I do like the A/B testing as somebody who always tries to figure out as an independent creator, having a tool available that would let me reach more people effectively without having to devote most of my time to it would be incredible because enough to get back to This Week in Tech too much, but honestly, it's like you don't have a shortage of people who want to watch the show. You have a problem finding all the people who could watch the show because there's an attention gap. So, the books I sell, if I could actually reach more people who I know actually want the book, I would sell more books. A classic marketing problem. So maybe AI it won't be a leveling influence by any means, but maybe it'll provide more tools to help us reach audiences that actually are interested in our stuff. Or it'll sell more soap, one of the two.
Of course, if I could have Anna de Armas talk to me specifically as I want, I wouldn't turn it down. I wouldn't be.
I think there's sites that you can do that with right now.
I'm thinking, there's now 2 record stores in Petaluma, like vinyl. There's one big one downtown. I'll take you there, Glenn, because you seem like a vinyl aficionado. But I'm just thinking the nostalgia for records, maybe Red Envelope podcasts and a DVD, maybe there'd be some nostalgia for that. Oh yeah. A hipster. I get my podcasts by mail.
I know a podcast. They're releasing a special member benefit. They're releasing an LP, a special episode, The Bugle, with Andy Zaltzman.
I love the
on
Bugle.
vinyl. Oh, it's like a big member premium thing because they're totally member supported. The show that started under Rupert Murdoch at the Times of London, hilariously.
But it had John Oliver. When it was John and Andy, that was the funniest show anywhere ever.
Before John became famous, it's true. Andy is they equally matched, but not in prominence. But anyway, that's kind of the member premium. It's like, hey, we're going to press a special limited edition vinyl album. So why not? That's kind of fun. Throw on the old,
Okay, Leo, here's my pitch for Club Twit.
Yeah.
Every member is like inserted into a show by AI. But then they only get that via a DVD that's mailed to them.
Ooh, I like it.
And there's only one copy of the DVD, and you delete it, from the server after you send it.
Oh, we could make it an NFT. I hear those are coming on strong.
Yeah, just mint that on the old Hanukkah blockchain.
There you go. Hey, let me take one more break before we wrap it up with our wonderful panel. You guys are great. Glenn Fleishman. I can't wait to see you in January. It's going to be so much fun when he comes up to the Charles Schulz Museum. Owen Thomas, someday you'll be able to come in studio and hang with me. I would love that. And Denise Howell, we love her. And I have to thank you, Denise, because you gave me an idea for the best Christmas present ever. I think it was last year. You recommended that L'Oreal steam curling iron.
Steam Pod, it's called. It does the opposite of curling. It's for straightening.
Yes. And every day Lisa thanks me. And I say, well, thank Denise because it was her idea. She loves it.
All right. So I got another one for you. I
need another one right now. It is that time of year.
Yep.
Our show today brought to you by Wix. Love these guys and web agencies. You're really going to like this one. Let me tell you about Wix Studio. It's a platform that gives agencies total creative freedom to deliver really complex, deep client sites and still smash deadlines. How about that? Well, first, let's talk about the advanced design capabilities, because that really makes a big difference. With Wix Studio, you can build unique layouts with a revolutionary grid experience. Elements scale proportionally, automatically by default. I mean, it's one of those things clients go, wow. No-code animations that adds sparks of delight. Custom CSS, of course, gives you total design control, and it doesn't stop there. You can bring ambitious client projects to life in any industry with a fully integrated suite of business solutions, from e-commerce to events to bookings. It's all built in and more. And you can even extend the capabilities even further with hundreds of APIs and integrations. And you know what else? The workflows, they just make sense. There's the built-in AI tools, the centralized workspace, on-canvas collaboration, the reuse of assets across sites, the seamless client handover, and on and on and on. There's so much more. You've got to go to Wix.com/studio. Find out more. Wix, Wix.com/studio. We thank them for their support. We had a great week this week on Twit. We've made a nice little movie for you. Enjoy.
Previously on Twit. Windows Weekly.
Microsoft pulled the pin on this grenade, and they announced a lot earlier than I would have expected that they are going to indeed support Windows 10 as expected. Here's the twist. They're going to offer this to consumers as well, not just businesses for the first time.
Oh, well, how much? Did they say a price?
No, Leo, because that would be good information that people would want.
This Week in Google.
So Bard was Google's response to ChatGPT, and they now have a new AI model. It just came out today called Gemini.
Tell me what you see.
It looks like a bird to me.
What if I add this?
The bird is swimming in the water.
Wow.
It has a long neck
Oh,
and
that's
beak.
cool.
I
It
have
is
to
a
tell
duck.
you, I don't know how you would distinguish that from AGI, to be honest.
Oh my God,
no.
we can't open this box again.
a duck. It can take over the world. Oh, come on, Leo.
Tech News Weekly.
Joining us today is Beeper co-founder Eric Mijakovsky.
We met a 16-year-old security researcher who had reverse engineered iMessage, the entire protocol. We started working with him, and over the last 3 months, we built Beeper Mini, which is a dedicated iMessage app for Android.
If you missed Twit this week, you missed a lot.
Well, I'll just cut to the chase. This is my last episode at Twit. I got to tell you, I'm in a really great place about it. You might see me tear up a little bit, but that would probably primarily be because I've been here for 13 years and I've known and worked with a lot of really great people and really enjoyed my time here. Y'all are amazing, and I really do truly love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for such a wonderful time working here. Thank you, Micah. Thank you for watching and listening each and every week. And Micah, we'll see you next time on Tech News Weekly. Bye everybody.
Yay. Oh, there.
It's okay. I'm literally 5 minutes away.
The great Jason Howell got a chance to say goodbye. We offered that as well to Victor and Ant. I don't. They may or may not. We don't know. But yeah, it was a great moment. And you saw. I didn't realize it was preserved in amber. My reaction to the Gemini video, which at the time I didn't know was completely fake. But that's why it's such a bad thing to do, to lie to people like that and get poor Leo so gullible he fell for it. Sigh. Hey, what's this about 1000 Van Ness? This is in your, is this in your publication, Owen?
Yeah, that's our reporter Alex Burra wrote up the sale of this building. It just sparked a lot of memories for me. My friend and former coworker Owen Malik also wrote about it.
Oh, we love Owen. Yeah.
This was the building 1000 Van Ness was a longtime AMC movie theater, but it had this quirky little restaurant in the lobby. And it turned out the restaurant was actually an outgrowth of an incubator that this quirky founder named Tony Hsieh had established called Venture Frogs. Tony had sold one company during the dot-com boom to Microsoft for hundreds of millions of dollars, started this incubator, but there weren't many restaurants around there, so he had his mom start a restaurant.
What?
It actually had a deal.
Before he was Zappos. This is like his mom?
Exactly. Zappos actually came out of Venture Frogs, and that's how he made his real multi-billion dollar fortune. The funny thing is, like, I remember there was like a dinner and a movie special. You could go to, the restaurant was called Venture Frogs too. So you would go to Venture Frogs, get this really great Asian dinner and noodles or something, and then go see your movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
of course, it's a story with a very, very tragic ending.
Yes. Hsieh, I believe ended up kind of self-immolating. He died in a fire that he may have started. I don't know if that investigation ever came to a definitive conclusion, but he died without a will, and his estate is, when that happens, your estate is essentially ends up managed by the courts.
Probate, right?
Yeah, probate court. And there have been all sorts of lawsuits over it. One guy got a settlement, I believe, in the millions of dollars based on a Post-it note that he claimed Tony had written him, promising him something. There was there were some questionable real estate deals that Tony Hsieh had executed, like very, very close to his untimely death. But yeah, it's very, very sad, very sad story. But some happy memories at 1000 Van Ness. Those were definitely the times for Tony Hsieh and the people in New York.
Is it still a movie theater, or what is there?
It's so AMC closed that theater. Another company, CGV, made a go of it. I think it is tough times for movie theaters. There's only one multiplex left in San Francisco in the Metreon. If you're counting on say half a dozen screens are up as your metric, you'd have to go across the bay or down to Daly City. I don't know. It would be great if someone made another run at it. But Barbie and Oppenheimer aside, I'm not sure if movies are really as back as much as Hollywood might hope.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, why should they? I mean, look at what was it? The Flowers of the Killer Moon, the Martin Scorsese feature, which Apple co-produced with Paramount, opened in theaters, but it's 3 hours plus long. And I just am not motivated to go see something in the theater. I went to see Oppenheimer on IMAX because I wanted to see it on IMAX. But frankly, it was a better experience watching it at home. I didn't have to go, oh, wow, he's big. He's really big. You could watch the movie. You could follow the movie, and most people now have decent TVs, decent sound. I'm not surprised that movies are suffering. I'm really not.
But I feel like the movie industry is also missing some obvious opportunities. Like, why didn't Barbie premiere at the Castro Theater? Like, the gays practically had to riot to get a screening of Barbie at the Castro Theater.
And by the way, I should point out,
our people deserve better.
Owen is gay.
Our people deserve better.
He's not disparaging any particular group. You would have gotten in line for Barbie at the Castro.
Yes, I'm trying to remember. I had. Actually, I was adopting this little guy that day, and that's why I couldn't go to Barbie.
Oh, I have yet to see Barbie. I haven't seen it yet. Should I see it?
It's deeper than you think.
Right. That's the impression I got. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as a
Movie.
woman, I enjoyed a lot of its themes.
Yeah. I did like Oppenheimer.
And like Hanukkah, it's a parable of technology, right?
There you go. Like the oil in the lamp.
I think movie theaters, the one thing they've gotten right, and I don't think it's all the chains, is they're doing live and rebroadcast opera and plays,
that's interesting,
musicals, things like that. Yeah, which is smart. There are experiences where, like, God, you can't all go to see the Met in New York. I liked even seeing when they had the Hamilton show with the original cast that they showed on Disney Plus. I think it's still up there, right?
Yeah.
That was even great as a home experience. And I was like, oh man, I think that was right in the heart of the pandemic. They released it as a year early because we all were like, please give us something, anything.
Yeah. It was the timing, right? Like, that would have done great in theaters.
Right. Oh my God, I would have gone because it wasn't the real thing. But even on the small screen, I felt like they did an incredible job of capturing theatrical experience.
And the Beyonce and Taylor concert film. Yeah.
Well, Taylor's done all right. The Eras movie's done very well, has it not? The Eras concert, or no? I don't know.
I think it did very well. And it's 100. Lost track of the amount of. Like, I know these numbers.
200 million at the global box office. 200 million.
And Hollywood actually moved some move some movies like away from the release weekend because they were like, we are not competing with Taylor.
Isn't that amazing? So maybe she should have been the person of the year. I mean, she is. It's fascinating.
She's a powerhouse.
The power. Is it just, Denise, answer this for me. Is it just millennial women? Are you a Tay-Tay fan?
Oh, I'm not. And I didn't have a female child, so I don't have it sort of by osmosis through their generation. I respect her. I like her music, but I'm not a huge stan.
Oh, and thank you, by the way. Here's my gift idea. Ooh. Ooh. Now,
there you go. You going to share?
You said it's the Moroccan oil, which is an interesting name for a piece of hardware. Oh, that's the company. Smooth Style Ceramic Heated Brush. No, I'm definitely going to get that for her.
They're awesome. They're a shampoo and conditioner company, so they have branched out into
got it.
More tool-based things here. But
by the way, I don't know why I would want to subscribe and save to that, but apparently I can. Would I want a new brush every 2 months? Most common? That seems a mistake.
Don't do that.
Does it wear out every 2 months?
No.
What? Amazon, you're messing with me, aren't you? All right, ordered it. I'm going to get it Tuesday. Thank you. I hope Lisa's not listening. Shh.
Tell her not to watch the show.
This is one of those Christmases where she said no gifts, which means more gifts. At least that's my interpretation. I may be wrong. On that one.
That's great.
When we were in Morocco, we got taken to a store where they did argan oil, which I had never heard of.
Yes, it's in this company's products.
I bet it is. It's a Moroccan oil, and it's the best stuff ever.
A tree?
Yeah, it's a nut.
Oh.
The argan tree, which is indigenous to Morocco and southwestern Algeria.
All right.
It's used.
So wait, you should be able to order it from nuts.com.
Because it is used. It says argan oil is used to dip bread in at breakfast or drizzle on couscous or pasta. But I used it on my hands, and it was lovely. It was my favorite oil. So anyway, now you didn't think you'd learn that on Twit. Speaking of oil in the lamps, maybe they used argan oil on the lamps. Maybe that was the secret.
I don't know what oil it was. A lot of things burn, as we know. Don't know this.
Is that your motto?
That's a lot of things.
A lot of things burn.
Ask again and you'll find out why.
Glenn, I can't wait to see you. I know you're coming to the Charles Schulz Museum. That'll be awesome. I look forward to having you in studio in January on Twig.
Very exciting. I'll be in 3 dimensions. It'll be weird.
We've never met, right?
I don't think we've met in person. Is that possible?
If we had, it would have been
at Macworld.
At a Macworld years ago. I don't think we've ever met.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that'll be fun.
I look forward to it. Thank you for the invitation.
Denise Howell, we have met. I remember sitting behind you at the blog world or something. And
it was the Podcast and New Media Expo in Ontario, California.
Oh my God! Thinking
at the dawn of podcasting.
I should get this woman on our shows, and I did, and it was This Week in Law, and it was an amazing thing. Hearsay Culture is the home of your new show, and I can't wait. It's apparently you're still having trouble with the RSS. Believe me, I know. I understand.
I'm told we have a good intern.
Yeah.
Who's going to fix all this?
The intern's working on it.
Yeah.
You're going to have a couple of shows there, right?
I'm just talent.
You're going to have a couple.
I can't give you a feed.
What are your shows going to be?
I do a show called Uneven Distribution, which is a callback to that William Gibson quote, "The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed."
Yes.
So I'm trying to feature people who are living in the future now. I just interviewed Dave Sifry. Do you remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Dave, Dave's an old friend I haven't seen in forever.
He's
when
awesome.
He started Technorati. He's the sweetest person, one of the sweetest people in tech. I don't want to say he's the only sweet person, but he is one of about 20.
He's awesome. Yeah, he did a great podcast with Doc Searles on Floss Weekly. I think it was back July, August, something like that. And hopefully I'll get his show out on our network sooner rather than later, because it is, of course, about AI and things change so rapidly. I'd love to get that one out. That's what he's working on these days. He has a tool called, a cool tool, people should check it out, called Questy.ai. And it's a GPT, I think, don't quote me on that. I'm not the technologist here. But it is it delivers results that are verified. So
Nice.
and it's trying to cut down on the whole hallucination problem. So
I think I should sign up for this right away. This
you
looks
should
great.
definitely kick the tires on
Yeah.
it. Of course, Dave knows what he's doing. So
Yeah.
Dave was always ahead of his time. I was listening to a podcast a week or so ago, and the two hosts, I think it was John Gruber and the fellow behind Gabe Tech Meme, Gabe Rivera, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And they were struggling. I'm listening to it not live, and they were struggling to remember Technovati's name, and I was shouting at my podcasting device, Techno, and eventually like, oh yeah, Technovati, Dave Sifry. Like, yeah, he came up with the a term I still use. I think he's the coiner. We knew the big head was in the long tail were Chris Anderson from Wired. That was his concept, right? I think he coined it, defined it, and then later had a lot of revision. Dave came up with the term the magic middle, which was that area in which you weren't the biggest, but you weren't so small in that long tail that you had enough traffic or enough mojo, whatever, that you could actually, run a business, be independent, or be sustainable. And I've always striven for the magic middle, because I'm never gonna have a big head, but I might be in the magic middle.
This is a sample question from Questy. What is the most passive-aggressive dish you can bring to a potluck dinner?
This was my favorite. I emailed Dave that I thought SNL should use this answer.
Is so great.
Raw ingredients.
Number one, just bring the raw ingredients. A bag of raw potatoes instead of the mashed potatoes. This may be seen as an illustration of a carefree attitude, or perhaps a flippant disregard for the efforts of others. I've actually had that happen. We used to have a dinner group where we would do a different country every month, and it'd be your responsibility to bring, and then everybody would bring something. One woman once brought a box of frozen peas to the dinner. So I know this.
Was she a performance artist?
No, she was just annoying. Number two, bare minimum contributions, unprepared items like store-bought cookies with a visible discount sticker.
There's an item on there about like non-inclusive ingredients, and I'm picturing like one giant peanut. Like just sorry if you're allergic. Here's
if you don't like nuts, too bad.
12-inch long peanut.
Alarmingly small quantities. Just 4 deviled eggs for a large gathering. That's good.
Oh my God, this is a good sketch.
This is hysterical.
The New Yorker has has the best version of this. Serve rustic country bread with a smear of goat cheese to everyone except Jeff.
Jeff doesn't know what he did even. It's sad.
That's why it's passive aggressive.
That's right. I saw a related meme on Instagram today that was a woman arriving to the potluck, and she has a big foil tray, and it has a cover, and she brings it in and she says, "It's claw casserole." And you peel back the cover and it's just a bunch of White Claws in a tray.
But if you like White Claw, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Thank you, Denise. It's great to see you. And we look forward to more from hearsayculture.com. And the great Owen Thomas from the San Francisco Business Times, bizjournals.com/San Francisco. So great to have you. Pow, pow. Pew, 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 pew. Anything else to plug, my friend?
Just bizjournals.com/San Francisco. We keep reporting on this amazing economy here in the Bay Area.
Yeah. Increasingly, I like having people like you with financial background on, because that story, for instance, about zero interest, I completely didn't think about it till you mentioned it. That's huge. And that really does change the landscape. If you go from free money to expensive money, everything changes.
Interest rates are almost like the weather. Like you never notice it until it changes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Mr. Fleishman. It's always great to have you. Happy Hanukkah, Glenn, and to all of you, and happy holidays to everybody. We will be back next week with our final episode of the year. I hope you will join us. We do Twit on Sundays around 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC. And we have changed our policy a little bit. We're cutting off the live streams because they cost us. But we figured out we could do it for free on YouTube. So we will turn on the live streams whenever a show begins. No more reruns. We can't afford that. That's a rerun box that we use. But we will do them live. So if you go to youtube.com/twit, you'll see when a show's in process, you'll see the live stream is open and you can watch, which is great. After the fact, of course, the best thing to do is to subscribe in your favorite podcast player. We like Pocket Casts, but you pick the one you like and subscribe so you get it automatically. If you search for Twit, all of our shows are there. There's also a website, twit.tv, with all of our shows. I do encourage you to join Club Twit. It helps us immensely. $7 a month, $84 a year. Of course, the main reason to do it is to help us keep going and keep this wonderful staff employed, but you also get ad-free versions of all the shows, access to the Discord, which is a great social network, and stuff that you don't get otherwise because it's a club specials. Twit.tv/clubtwit. And thank you very much for your support. We really appreciate it. We will be back next week. I hope you will too. But for now, I must say it is another Twit is in the can. Goodbye. Take care.
This is amazing.